Hi everyone and welcome to episode 5 of the Burning Cast. We have a new guest. Sam couldn't be here today, so we've got Shady. Hi Shady.
Oh. Hey everyone.
So Shady I've played with in Classic WoW. But whilst playing Classic WoW together, it was a case of, oh wow, this guy's actually got quite a good history of the game. And yeah, I thought, Shady watches my stream from time to time, and I thought, it'd be really nice if we can't get Sam online today for an episode of the Burning Cast. I thought, and I reached out to Shady. I think Shady's a really nice guy, and that just on top of being
debatable.
On top of being a TBC high-end player, I think we can get some really good information and insight. So first of all, Shady, are you going to play the Burning Crusade Classic?
Yeah, definitely. I'm super excited for TBC.
And what were your what's your experience in TBC retail? Just so people know that you're like the real deal.
I was a top 10 raider in Classic, TBC, and Wrath. And then afterwards, it's kind of been like top 100, top 200 after that, up until Legion, when I kind of didn't play any more retail after that.
And PvP?
Yeah, I was a multi-glad in season 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and then I played a bit after that as well. But I don't really remember those expansions were.
Yeah. So if I say you've done it all, you've basically done it all, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
That's pretty cool because it sounds like, in contrast, I didn't do that much in TBC. And some people, I'm very flattered when people are surprised by that. So, I played, towards the end of TBC even, and that was really annoying. And perhaps that's why I have this draw towards TBC, because TBC is like my vanilla WoW for a lot of people,
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Did you played vanilla as well, yeah?
Yeah, I played, I started playing WoW in US Beta, I think it was.
Oh my
US
god,
Beta, and
this
then
guy.
EU Beta. I think that was at US Beta. Yeah.
What games were you playing before WoW?
I was playing EverQuest. I was playing a bit like Asheron's Call, Dark Age of Camelot.
Oh my god, this guy's done it all.
Yeah, I started the first time I played an MMO was 98, but I wasn't really playing. It was my brother was playing, and I was playing on his account. And I was fortunate enough that he had 2 computers, so I could just play on a PC next to him.
Your brother had 2 computers?
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. What a baller.
Yeah, you had to have a healer as well, right? In the early stages, so
what, you played his healer or he played yours?
Yeah, basically. He had a healer and I played the healer. So that's how my MMO career started.
Dude, your brother was selfish maybe, but also got you into it early. It worked well.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's really good. So in Twitch chat, Shady is the real deal, so feel free to nag Shady if you ever see him in my stream chat and tell him to become a full-time co-host of the stream. Because I think your insight and you've got so much experience, that's what's really interesting. And it's nice to have you played TBC private servers?
Yeah, I started quite early on TBC private servers. Actually, I started dabbling when the first arena tournament came out. I think that was 2008 or 9.
When the official arena tournament came out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then there was the private server one, and then there was I think it was the first Phoenix. When was that? 2010, I think. So I was dabbling in and out of private servers, but not that much, I would say. But a bunch, a bit, I would say.
So when you're on the arena tournament, so you were on the arena tournament before you started playing any private servers?
Yeah.
So what drew you to the private servers? Was it a case of, so these arena tournament servers are so much more convenient to get arena done, and it's a case of private servers, you can do that as well?
Yeah, that was exactly it. You would have I think for me the worst part about WoW and this is gonna maybe surprise a bit people, but I don't enjoy leveling in TBC in WoW at all. I never have, and I always enjoyed a level playing field, if that makes sense.
Yes, I don't think that's a hot take at all.
Yeah,
that's not surprising.
Not. Yeah. So the fact that you could get into a server on a even playing ground from the bat was something that was really appealing to me, because there was a lot of things in retail WoW that was really beneficial to you as a PvEer, as a PvPer, whatever. Like you had some benefit to it, maybe your professions or whatever, and all of these things just didn't matter. It was just, you could choose whatever class, you could choose whatever you want, and just duke it out. And that was super appealing to me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. That's really fun. What are your thoughts on PvE items? So you were doing Arena in TBC. Like, what are your thoughts on PvE items being required for top end rating in PvP in TBC?
I mean, it's a tough one, right? Like, it's in one way it's nice for the, what you would call maybe the PvE oriented person to actually step into Arena, because you have some items that is going to benefit you, but it's usually so skewed, especially in TBC, with the PvE items are just way too powerful, in my opinion. Some not so much, some very much. So it that's kind of one of the things that I'm the least excited about TBC Arena. Whatever you kind of the new TBC.
Yeah, classic TBC.
Yeah, classic TBC. Because those issues have kind of been solved on private servers, right? They've banned certain items. They have seen the data that these items are so impactful that we cannot let them be in Arena, basically. So to see them come back, and it was also with their early announcement with how the seasons would play out, was also a bit scary for me, but they kind of backtracked on that. So I guess that's a
the
good
Arena season was originally going to start season 1 during phase 2, which is tier 5.
Exactly.
And you and many other PvPers said, whoa. The PvPers are going to be left behind and the PvEers are going to be stomping.
Yeah, exactly. They will anyway, I would say. Like,
right.
I don't think you can really top end. It depends on classes, of course, but I still don't think you can really top end PvP without PvEing in TBC, because there's just so many items on almost every class that has some niche or some like very good thing going for them, basically.
Speaking of class, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, but I was just gonna bring up Airing from Lurker as an example.
Spirit, yes.
Yeah, it's massive, right? Yeah. So.
Speaking of classes, what classes have you played? Do you play? Are you gonna play in TBC Classic?
I'm back. I'm flip flopping a bit here, but for sure I'm playing Rogue. I'm for sure playing Druid. And I am thinking about playing Priest. Like, the more I think about it, I think Priest is the one that's the most appealing to me right now.
Why do you like Priest so much?
I think there's some... The thing with Priest is that it's a very fun class in PvP. And in PvE, if I hope it would sway towards, in something like a speedrun meta, you would still play something like a disc, because pain suppression is just so powerful as an ability. So I just would enjoy playing something like that, a disc roll or anything like that. But holy, not so much. But yeah, so that's kind of why I want to play Priest.
Okay. Are you able to just turn your webcam, tilt it down a little bit? Just so.
Sure. Is that better?
No, that's too much. Sorry. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. So just so we can see your mouth a bit more.
Yeah, no
okay,
worries.
Sorry.
No worries.
So I don't have much experience at all playing Priest, but it's a very versatile healer in PvE. I know that much. And I suppose the same is true when it comes to PvP. You've got lots of different comps you can play with, and
I think Priest is the most versatile, best healer in the right hands. If that makes sense. Like, I don't think anyone else even
it doesn't struggle in any scenario massively. It can always do okay, and in a good healer's hands, you can predict when that is coming and get through it, and then you're still on top.
Yeah, and you also have the aspect of DPS on it, right? Like, first of all, they got holy spells.
I hate it. Yeah.
It's just...
I've never played with a priest, so when it comes to like priest nuking targets, it's like, dude, it's unfair that you never get really behind as priest, and if you stay on top, you can add the pressure.
Exactly. It's just way too flexible, and it doesn't have the weaknesses that the other healers have in any stretch. Like it's almost like a DPS, but while simultaneously healing. It's a bit too much. But yeah, that's why I'm leaning towards priest.
Like recently, I played some warrior shaman, and it's like the shaman is like not casting a heal for like 10 seconds at a time because they can't, and it's like, well, it'd be nice if I had a power word shield, a renew, a hot, a something. But all I've got is, the totems have been killed. I'm literally like 2v1ing for 10 seconds, it seems like. Multiple, fairly regularly.
Shaman is good as well, but it's like the 5 HP totems and stuff is not really appealing to me.
Talking about changes, we're going to just flip-flop between topics and we'll try and draw it back as we go. Do you think that some, like, in terms of like PvP meta, what do you expect we will see?
Rogue plus whatever.
Rogue in every comp.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so powerful in TBC. It basically has no weakness, and it has so many strengths, especially the higher up you go. Like even on a pretty baseline level, I think Rogue is really, really powerful. You don't really have to know what to do that much, but in the hands of a good player, it's just like, as an example, bring up private servers again. On private servers right now, they usually have, as many people might not know or know, they have a wound poison in TBC, right? It's a stacking mortal strike effect. Yeah. So it starts on 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50. And on private servers, you have Shiv, which is, Shiv as an ability is, I think that is the biggest mistake they made in TBC when it comes to Arena. I think Rogues would have not been as bad if it wasn't for Shiv. But those two combined makes the game, and Crippling. You also have Crippling, which is a 70% slow, the highest slow in the game. All those, and the stuns, and the Cloak of Shadows on 1 minute, you have Blind on 130. It's like everything compounds on Rogue so much compared to every other class, and the damage on top of that. It's like they have everything going for them. There's really nothing bad with Rogue, to be honest. Like, it's just way too good.
Do you think that Blizzard will make any kind of changes to combat how good Rogue is? Do you think that they will?
I hope they. One big change that they've done on private servers, which is a really good change, I think that something that definitely should go into live would be, and you have effects like Cure Poison, right? Or Abolish Poison, or anything that removes poison. In retail or in TBC, whatever, it was, you have a chance to remove any of the poisons, right? So as I just explained, you had 5 wound, 1 cripple, right? So you have a chance every time you dispel a poison to roll within any of these poisons, which is 6 times, right? You have 1 in 6 to get rid of crippling poison.
Yeah.
On private service, they fixed this by making it a 50-50 chance. So you have either a chance to get rid of a poison,
unique buff, not by the stack counting as each.
Yeah. So that is something that I would definitely change, just to combat crippling poison, because crippling poison is just really annoying. And the other thing I would change is I would make blind 2-minute cooldown. Those are the big things I think Rogue should change or should need. And maybe that would make it a bit better. I think those 2 changes are the ones I would definitely do, at least.
So you want to reduce the blind cooldown?
No, I want to increase it to 2 minutes.
Increase it by... Oh, sorry. So do you talent it to reduce it?
Yeah, I would make it so you could max get it to 2 minutes. Because right now you can hit 130, right? Okay. And in arenas, for basically every rogue,
like with trinkets and all that synergy, it's a bit too powerful to have it before every cooldown.
Exactly. So that's the thing. Like what every rogue does, or every top tier rogue does, is they open up, they blind the healer, and either you trinket the blind or you get sapped, and that's like 18-second CC that you're guaranteed to sit through. And if you trinket it, it doesn't really matter because it's going to come in 1 minute 30 anyway, when you don't have trinket anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that is a big issue I feel about rogues, or especially blind. It's also the fact that it's such an easy thing to do. It's like any rogue can do this. You just blind someone and he's CC'd for at least a minimum 10 seconds, right?
Yes.
And
Like in my experience playing against rogue, it's a case of your trinket's on cooldown and you're just waiting to lose at that point.
Exactly. And I just think with the class already being so good, they don't need that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And also, not every opponent can get rid of the blind.
Exactly. Nobody can. It's not a poison anymore, right?
I'm sorry.
Right?
So it's poison just in classic. Is that the case?
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So it's a physical spell as well. Like if it was a poison, I would keep it the way it is. But it's a physical spell that's a CC. That the only way you really can combat it is intervene, right? Like it's the only thing, and it's pretty easy to play around intervene. Everybody has to admit that, right?
Well, that's really interesting. Like, let's jump back to PvE.
Yeah.
So you were in a top 10 guild in TBC. Like, were you in that guild for the duration of TBC? No, let's wind back. Let's wind back. Classic. What's your classic experience?
I cleared KT World 12, I think it was.
That's very cool.
So I started hardcore raiding basically as soon as I started raiding in Classic, I would say. But it was way different how you approach guilds then. Like I just joined this guild from like general chat and it just turned out to be a good guild, right? Like because there was a lot of the good players already came from different games. Like I knew some people from different games were on different servers and they were starting together that way, and so you kind of had like an inkling of these players are good players in this game, so they should be good players in this game. So that was kind of the way it worked.
What server were you on vanilla?
I was on Stormreaver and Stormscale and on Masrigos later on when my guild transferred to Masrigos.
Okay, cool.
That's another thing that I don't know if many people remember. The servers were really horrible in Classic, like really horrible. We had DCs every day. Like I got compensated, I think 3 months. Like just imagine that fact, Blizzard compensating you for not being able to play the game. They compensated me in total 3 months game time just for not being able to play the game. So so we just migrated from the big servers back then.
That's really interesting. And so I remember people talking about in Nax, you would sometimes physically not be able to complete the boss mechanic because of the servers. And you almost had to progress outside of peak times because it wasn't achievable to do Thaddeus or anything else, or like the dance on...
Exactly. It's exactly the way you're saying. You also have to think about the fact that there wasn't really any voice programs working the way they work now. You had to like split people into groups. You would have like say the melees in one Ventrilo server as it was at the time, and like the healers in one and the tanks in one, and then you would chat in raid chat whatever you came up with, and that was like the conclusion, and then someone explained to the other guy what they were supposed to do, etc. So it was completely different ball game than it is today, like in every sense.
Like people seem to think that the players back in the day were really bad, and I like to defend the people who were playing back in the day because it's not a fair comparison whatsoever. Because you can go online and look at a Kel'Thuzad tactic video guide, spreadsheet, whatever right now, and that gives you a really good baseline. And whereas back in the day we didn't have this ease of communication, whether it be like YouTube was barely a thing back in vanilla.
Yeah, exactly what you're saying.
Predates
exactly
YouTube.
True.
You basically had to go on like the WoW forums or like some very niche websites where someone had written a guide or something. Like it was difficult, particularly the guides didn't even exist if you were a good enough guild to be there before anybody had done a guide. I remember when I first started.
It's progress rating. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting, and it helps so much if you've got a friend in a guild that's better than yours and they can just like spoon feed you the useful information like even before you start pulling. Like that was so useful. If you knew that certain debuffs stacked, didn't stack, paladins were great, priests were bad, or whatever. That really propelled you so far in progress. And that was so, like, it was such more of a social thing. Like, if you had the social interaction between two guilds, that would be your progress. Like, not kryptonite. What's the opposite of kryptonite? I don't know. It'd be it's such a good, useful resource, you know. Whereas now, everyone has access to not the same information, but you have, like, the bottom of the barrel basically is very good.
It's completely different today. Like, just like you were alluding to there, the communication between guilds was practically non-existent, because you didn't want to share anything with anybody either, because you worked so hard on these tactics or ideas that you wanted to implement, that you didn't really want to share them with anybody. Like, I even have close friends in other guilds, of course, like you do in Classic and TBC especially, but I just never mentioned anything about strats or how we downed a boss, or when we downed a boss even. Like, that was like that was for me personally. Of course, information got spread through different sources, but like, you were very paranoid about people using that strat, and someone finding the strat and then using it, and then and it wasn't as much about world ranking either in Classic. I would say it was more about being server first. Server first was the thing people strived for.
I've seen interviews of other people in, like, world first guilds who have been the stage where, like, oh, well, I just, I applied to this guild on my server and we started killing bosses. It was really fun. And then at some point, weeks in, we actually were the world first guild, and, like, not really knowing, because it was just a case of, oh, well, I just joined a good guild on my server. Oh, wait, these guys are good on a global stage. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, and it's, again, especially in Classic, I think it was a bit different in TBC, but you had the core could really carry. You didn't really need 30
you can see 20, that in Classic. Wow.
Yeah, you need like 10, 15 really, really good players, and then you're pretty set for world first, I would say. Like, as close to world first. The best guilds had maybe 20 good players, 25, and they were like really, really good players then. And then you had like 15 Deadwood that just came with the raid, basically.
Yeah. People used to say that, 5 people could be offline at any time, another 5 being AFK, and the guild, the raid would still progress. Still keep pulling bosses.
Yeah. Like, you would have as a strat that you would basically be outside of where the room would close, and whoever was left outside the room was left outside for this try. That was just the way you had to approach it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Like, in for this try, they'll be in for the next try. They'll just come and go. It's all good.
It's like world buffs is another thing. Like, that was barely used. Like, we used it for, I think it was for KT, and that was it. I think there was like maybe like someone managed to get an Oni buff or something, but it was nothing like it is now. I think I remember just like killing KT alone. That was a big thing to get world buffs. Like, and it wasn't the way it is now with Sunflower and everything. It was basically Soul Guru buff and Oni buff, and that was it. And you were off to the races. You didn't get anything else. And so it's a completely different meta today, I would say, in every sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So was it just a case of people didn't think that they were required?
It was,
or because it was people logging off, people not being, it's so militarized now. And I know that in the top guilds it always has been some form of militarized.
Yeah, but it was never just the fact that, if we would take Praxis as an example, right?
Yeah, that's the classic guild that we've played in. I'm still playing there.
Yeah, and it just the whole way of going towards something like Sunflower, right? That that wouldn't fly in any top guild. I think, like, maybe in the very, very, very top 1-2 guilds.
Yeah, but you would be having your own summoner. You'd be having to pay a pug summoner to summon you there, to summon you back. And like, just think about it. In 2008, trying to liaise with somebody to tell them, like, obviously it's common knowledge what Sunflower buffs are. It's common knowledge it's in Felwood. It's common knowledge for the timers, blah, blah, blah. But back then, you need to say to someone, I want you to stand here and I'm going to be
And just
logged
can't.
out
Yeah.
for a long period. I'm not going to be able to communicate with you because the only way I can communicate with you is in game. I'm offline for hours before, maybe because I've got DMT last night or something, whatever, and you need to be here at this point. I'm going to pay you 10G. That's a huge amount of gold back in the day, probably still. And it's like trying to get like a pug a summon to a certain spot and then pug a summon to, you know, Stormwind, get a warlock summoning you there, and then to Nax, like it's like imagine being.
And then you don't and you shouldn't die. Like that's another thing.
Yes.
Like World PvP was much bigger in retail classic or whatever you want to call it than it is today. Like people had as a main, they just wanted to kill the main tank of a guild. Like they still do in a sense, I guess. But it was like Nax was horrible for that reason. Like if you were any guild going into Nax, it was basically you run in there together or you're gonna die. That's it. And so world buffs was also kind of like I guess in a way how it is today, that people didn't want to get world buffs because they're gonna lose them anyway in some stupid way, because it was nowhere near the organization it is today in guilds. Like no way.
Well, I'm really glad that like Kel Fazad in particular is as hard as he is, even with world buffs. It's a shame
it's a really hard boss.
It's a shame that it took the final boss in the final phase for that to become a thing. And I know that our guild is you know pretty good on Four Horsemen. Like I've not had any troubles with Four Horsemen in Praxis, and I don't know if I assume that other guilds have had difficulties, but I can only really speak from my point of view. And maybe if I'm a podcast host going forward, I should look at the whole spectrum of guilds. But you know, in my experience, Four Horsemen has been fine. And again, it comes to the communication. You can watch a video guide and kind of get a grasp of what you want to be doing.
Yeah,
but some guilds it will be Four Horsemen and Saffron and Kel Fazad. But again, the other bosses.
Horsemen, that was kind of like the big thing in Classic. It was you had these bosses like Four Horsemen. I don't know how it is today because I stopped just before AQ was released, so I haven't done like Classic or whatever you want to Classic next. But the big issue we had was just getting tanks, like having people have Dreadnought set. Like you would poach people's tanks, like main tanks from other guilds, just to get the set bonus. Like that was they didn't matter how their skill level, just have the set bonus. That's all you want. And that's like a completely different thing, I think, today. I'm not sure how it is today, as I said, but like those were like the baseline of things. And then you had Saf when you enter Saf the first time, and it's like, oh, we need frost resistance now.
So
No, go ahead.
So let's just talk a little bit about TBC. We don't have to. We can go straight back to Classic. But in Sunwell Plateau, you had the gates being closed, so you physically couldn't progress any further than Blizzard wanted you to. What I really like about these old school raids, like Mother Shiraz to an extent, where you required the shadow resistance, Four Horsemen, it kind of required you to farm the content. So instead of having a soften rage where the boss gets strong for the last 20% or progressively stronger for the last 20%, so you always kill it at the most challenging state that your guild can, which is interesting. You have fights like Four Horsemen where it's maybe designed around having the set bonus from tier 3, but by all means you could do it just before and just kind of teeter on, you know, it being safe enough and it being very risky, so that, and you can kind of just eke your way through and get the kill before the designers are kind of intending a normal guild to kill it. These high level guilds can do it before that kind of tier set thresholds, right? And then again for Saffron, so you have this first big barrier in Four Horsemen. Well done, guys. That was rough. Okay, next wing. Oh my god! Particularly being like a world first guild with no PTR. That's something we can talk about on the advantages of having a PTR. So you go into Saffron's room and it's like, oh my god, like it's such a 180. Like it's so crazy how you now have to, all that frost resistance gear that we started disenchanting because we had no use for it. Like what the hell?
It's like you could kind of see it in a way. Like you could, if some people were on the, I remember people were saying like maybe we should keep this gear, but again it was like, why should we keep this gear? Like what are we going to use this for?
It's mad.
So that came to bite us in their ass. The same thing with Huhuran was kind of the same thing. That was like the first one where people started to get kind of like PTSD from, because it was the same there, right? You would enter the room and all of a sudden you have this poison boss where everybody needs poison resistance, when it's completely different today, but that's how it was back then. So that was like, it's like you said, it's kind of like gating in a way, where, but I think from listening to the designers talk about it, I think that was kind of their intention, right? They never intended for guilds to clear a raid in a day. Like that was
Yes.
not intention. There was a week's time. You would meant to
Yes.
clear a boss at a day, basically. That was their intention. It just didn't turn out that way, right? But yeah, that was their grand intention.
Yeah, it's so crazy how, yeah, like you say, they're not intended to be cleared this quickly. And I really like the fact that they had kind of, I don't want to say artificial roadblocks, but I guess you could say Saffron was maybe an artificial roadblock. But it's nice how you have, progression really being something that is long-winded, and actually you fight through, and you really have to spend time and invest, and you make it through. And again, it's a complete contrast with how we have raiding today. You need frost resistance gear for Saffron. You get all these green items, and any item in the world that's rare, that's a bit of stamina on and some frost resistance, everyone in the guild grabs it, and you go in with world buffs as well. And it's like, it's really strange how
it's a different game today. Like
exactly.
it is different, but it's not really that much different, to be honest. Like that was one thing that I found out coming back, since I didn't play any classic private service at all. It's the one thing that I just basically got plopped back into. So it was like a time warp for 15 years, but I thought it was a lot. I thought it was going to be a lot different than it was, to be honest.
You thought it was going to be closer to vanilla?
No, I thought it would be completely different. Like all these new strats, like all the possibilities are there. Like these private server people, they have to have found out something like completely amazing. But then I talked to some private server people, and it's like the most trivial things that, like, as an example, like Molten Core, right?
Yep.
When you enter Molten Core and you jump down to the right, there is like a ledge where you always take. And that wasn't used on private servers, was what I was told. And we used that back in 2006, 7, So that was like a thing. I was like, what? What do you mean you didn't? It was used towards the end, was what I was told. Okay. Like it wasn't from the start. Like people didn't do that route. And that was another thing that I was just pretty sure was known all the time, right? So but again, I come from a different perspective than the average raider, I guess, from in vanilla. But that was very eye-opening. But when it comes to world buffs and the warrior meta, that was something that we always knew. Not always, but we kind of knew that warriors were the strongest DPS.
It's a massive commitment to get the whole guild to reroll.
Exactly.
When next patch could nerf warriors completely.
Exactly.
Like that. Exactly. I think that's something that people need to really keep in mind when they're talking about, retail players were all bad. Look at this comp. Look at this comp. Yeah. You can't just say everyone in the guild reroll, because there's no boosting. There's none of this. Like you have to basically do it yourself and spend weeks or months of playing every single day to get your level 60. Yeah. And you can't. It's less min-maxy getting the gear, and the leveling up your character is so much more difficult, and it requires more cooperation from just the guild. You can't get a boost from some guy in Zul'Gurub for 20g. That doesn't exist. You have to be having such a big investment from the guild for that to happen as a team, or even more so on your own. Like it's crazy. And oh my god, like
just boosting in general wasn't really the same that it is today. like boosting, you were left to your own devices, right? Like you go ahead and level. We'll see you in a month or whatever it took to level, and then we'll help you out with like the trivial things like attunements and stuff. That was something that was a bit more. I'm not sure how it is now, but you would just like bring in green geared players and just give them the offset pieces and stuff after a while. Like that was more towards the end of Classic, I would say, than in the early stages, but. Yeah, so it was a completely different game in many sense, but it's also not very different, I guess is my conclusion.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I forgot the question I was going to ask you. It's something along the lines of, so you were playing in a hardcore end, good guild back in the day. How do you compare that to like the guilds that we have now in terms of like player skill? No, okay. The question was sorry about the quantity of accounts. So how many people in practice have multiple accounts?
I guess everybody, right? Like basically everyone, I would say.
I'd have guessed like half.
Maybe, yeah, you might be right. I think.
But if you take into account the average account per player, I'd say it's 2 or 2. I'd say it's the average.
Yeah, at least.
So that's about there. So how many players in your like your top 10 or 12, world 12th Nax Ramus clear? How many people had a second account?
None. There was not a single one. No. But
I was expecting a number more than one.
No.
Oh my god.
I mean, there was. I'm sure there was someone, but there was. It was more on the line
brother's account or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or someone wanted to play Horde instead and go raid. Like that was my thing. Like I had a friend. That's how I started in my guild from the first time. I started as Alliance and then I swapped to Horde because he didn't want to play Horde anymore. So he just went. Do you want to trade accounts?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Blizzard. So he just got my Paladin and I got his Warlock, and that's how it started. And then I started leveling a Mage, and that was like. That was more like it. Like people traded accounts, and like just account sharing in general was like I think I had at the max like 17 people on my account playing at the same time, something like that. And that was what had happened instead. Like it was still to the same degree. It's just like people didn't have the accounts to do it by themselves, I guess.
That's crazy. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. What else can we talk about? So, what class were you playing for your Kel'Thuzad progress skill?
I was playing a mage. A mage.
So, was mage your main in Order Classic? Or
I was playing mage and rogue. This is another funny story. I started as a mage, and then I started playing rogue, and I was in a Pug MC run, and I managed to snag a binding in the first MC run. And then I had this is a funny, and then the second binding dropped. So from the
same run?
Same run, yeah.
Oh my god.
So I have some friends that was there, so they can confirm this if people. I know this sounds fucking odd, but yeah.
No, I'm with you. In Wrath of Lich King, when I found my binding, I had 1 for a few months and then 2 on the same run.
Yeah, so.
But that's Wrath of Lich King, so who cares?
Yeah, and then everybody was like, okay, yeah, you have to play rogue, because we didn't really know about the threat from. Thunder Fury to the same degree. Like we knew it had a lot of threats,
but it also just does damage. So fuck it. Like I want
exactly. It was like, but it was main hand then. Like that's another thing.
Really? Okay.
It was only main hand for until the last patch of Classic.
Oh, you linked me that video. Can you find me that video, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my god. Shady shared this with my stream the other week, and it's this rogue who's got. Is it Wind Fury as well? So Wind Fury and Thunder Fury, all the Furies, and
all
he's just going to town. And it's like, I wasn't aware of this video. Like you've seen like the shaman with the legendary Ragnaros hammer, Hand of Rag, and like that's a fairly famous video. But this one I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, I think this was. I mean, in smaller circles at the time then, right? Like this was the pre-nerfed version of Thunder Fury because it had like 3 changes throughout Classic.
Did you even timestamp it for me?
Sorry?
Did you even timestamp it for me?
No. I didn't.
Okay.
I just linked it, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Maybe it was from when I watched it together with you.
Okay.
But yeah, it started up like completely nuts, like completely. I didn't have it when it was this version, but like this guy, I think it was world 3rd or 4th something, Thunder Fury in the world.
Oh, wow.
And this was when it had a 40%. Like this was what people said, at least. There was a 40% chance to proc and can proc off itself. So that was like the first Thunder Furies. Everybody was like, wow, that's amazing for rogues. Like imagine just having that, and it has 1.9 speed. That's nuts. But we didn't take into account the things like the threats and etc. on it. But so in the beginning, it was very much like a rogue or a warrior weapon.
Yeah.
So
there was a an interview that Punk Rat, if you know that YouTuber, he had with the world first. What's the battle tank from AQ event?
Yeah, I know which one you mean.
What's the title you get in TBC?
Scarab
Lord,
right?
yeah, thank you. Yeah. So he interviewed that guy, and they were talking about. Oh, so this is where he's got Wind Fury as well.
Yeah.
So he was talking about when bindings dropped, they had no idea what the hell it was for.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
it was
crazy. Like that, you
completely
can't get
weird.
any more. Like how different? Like how do you convince someone that classic WoW is different to vanilla WoW? Bindings were dropping, and people didn't even know what they were for.
Yeah, it's that was completely true. Like this, and everybody said this is another thing that's completely different. Was that the Sulphurous Hammer was a better legendary than the Thunder Fury, right? So that was because everybody was like, "Wow, it has high DPS." And
yes,
Blackwing Lair was out then, but it wasn't it wasn't as farmed, etc. So people didn't really. They just looked at Sulphurous and said, "Oh wow, that's just amazing." And it's, I guess, the orange color is a big part of it as well.
yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't for the longest time in Classic. People were just like pretty guaranteed, not the longest time, but they were just like on this idea that Sulphurous was the good legendary and Thunder Fury was a throwaway weapon.
With the min-maxing that we have in TBC, let's say that you're a game designer for Blizzard, and back in the day, the cost of Thunder Fury, the materials, the bulk of it was the 100 Arcanite bars, right?
Yeah.
In this min-max culture we have in Classic TBC, in Classic Vanilla, Classic WoW, how would you scale the amount of Arcanite bars so it would be equal to the effort required of Classic, of Vanilla?
I mean, I would at least double it, like at least. Like just the fact that guilds didn't really pay for your Thunder Fury at all. Like I know we had the same situation in Praxis, but it was just like more of a. You didn't have the same amount of gold either, and inflation today is like inflation of items isn't nearly as high as the inflation of gold, I would say, in Classic now. You have people that can just, and they know what's worth and what isn't worth anymore. That's also a big thing, right? Like people used to collect things like spider silk and all this weird thing because maybe it's going to be good sometime in the future, right? So it's completely different game. But I think Thunder Fury is like, I'm not even sure if I would have it in Classic. I mean, it's such an iconic item and it's so good, but it's almost on the level of too good, I would say.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's kind of sad as well to go into Stormwind and you see 10 warriors and 3 of them have Thunder Fury.
Yeah, exactly. It's
or am I just triggered because I don't have Thunder Fury?
Yeah, but I would reduce the drop rate. Like I would reduce the drop rate to, I think, what the original drop rates thought it would be. If that makes sense.
So yeah, I'm kind of with you. So would you want it to be drop rate related? Because I think you could maybe do something more interesting than just have it still be RNG.
You could probably do something more interesting with it. It's just I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it.
I think definitely I wouldn't have it drop in MC. I think that's
Oh
another
yeah. Phase 1, you get the bindings. Phase 2, you get the ore.
Exactly. I
crazy.
think it could have been a Nax weapon, maybe like something like that. That maybe kind of like Atieshis. I would maybe swap places with those. Have Atiesh? No, I'm not sure. Maybe Atiesh is very powerful as well. It's a very tricky one. I think.
Well, have it scale. Have it be bad in phase 1.
Yeah.
And no, Shady. Yeah. 100 Arcanite bars, phase 1. And it doesn't have the proc. Another 100 in phase 3, and it has the proc but not the threat, or the threat but not the proc. And then phase 6, another 100, because that's like how they did it in one of the later expansions where you had the weapon that you just upgraded.
Yeah,
is that kind of it?
That would be a better idea. Yeah,
but again, that would be hashtag like changes, and it wouldn't be vanilla. It wouldn't necessarily feel the better. I'm not saying it would be better, but I'm just saying it's an idea.
Exactly, something different, I would say.
Yeah,
like because it's just way too good for when you get it. Like way too good.
And in the same sense, you're saying that tanks needing is it 4-piece tier 3 on 4 horsemen? It's the same as, or if you just get Thunder Fury on your tank and it's, hit a spell once in a while and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's so powerful, especially in the early stages of Classic. I know it's not like this anymore, but you could stack the attack speed reduction with other attack speed reduction things. So
I've seen that on private servers and it's busted.
Yeah, it's completely broken. Like, especially from a healer's perspective, right? If you want to look at it that way, like reducing swing timers on bosses is amazing. Like, it's just amazing. Even as a tank, I presume, but you just hit certain breakpoints and it just makes everything way easier.
If you've got a 2.5 second holy light and you've got a boss with a 2.6 swing speed, you can just do holy light. You can literally spam holy light on cooldown, and then like one in 20 you need to just like delay a bit and then continue.
Exactly. It's just way too good, and it's the same thing. Like, you don't lose anything by it either. It's like that's the thing with Thunder Fury. You get a cast speed reduction and you get an insane threat proc of it.
Yeah, the issue for me as a warrior is you get less rage from damage taken if the boss is
true. But it doesn't matter. You have Thunder Fury, right?
So, that's true. You're the like,
yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Oh, and then like in the video we saw it procking off itself. Yeah. That's something that you mentioned before, and that's just crazy.
Yeah. It's insane. It's way too insane.
That's really good. Okay, so this is meant to be like a TBC podcast, but we've just spoken for like. Oh, hold on. Okay, I was looking at my stream timer and it said 1 hour and 30. We've not been speaking for 1 hour and 30. I just had an OBS crash and I was streaming before. I was like, oh my god, there's no way. Well, there could be, but no. Okay, so TBC. Let's try and push over to TBC. So you're playing TBC. Let's go back to we're trying to go back and forth so that if you're interested in PvP, people have something to listen to in PvE. So what are your PvP predictions besides Rogue in every comp that's top?
Yeah, like maybe not every comp, but basically every comp. That's my main thing. I think Druid isn't really. It's still the second best healer, I would say, but it's not like. I think from talking to a lot of people, they're under the impression that Warrior Druid is. The god comp still. It's like the strongest comp in the game. Nothing beats it. It's just way too good. I don't agree with that at all. I don't think Warrior Druid is even in. I mean, it's probably a top tier comp, but not really a top tier comp. Maybe high mid tier, I would say probably.
But would you have said back in the day it was a top tier comp?
It was the best comp, I would say. Like, it was the best comp. The comps that were good back then are still good. It's just they're so much more refined than they were back then. Like Rogue Priest, like if you would say Rogue Priest beats Warrior Druid in 2007, people would laugh at you, right? Like they would go, "There's no chance." Like Rogue Priest doesn't have a chance. But these days, Rogue Priest is just like. For me, Rogue Priest in 2s especially, like of course, it's just way too good. It's way too good. It doesn't have any weakness. It doesn't.
This is from someone who wants to play Priest in TBC.
It's
too good.
I mean, it is too good. It's way too good. It doesn't have any weakness. It has way too much damage. It can reset endlessly. Like you can't really kill it unless they fuck up, which is not a good thing for a comp if you have that as your main weakness. So yeah, I would say Rogue Priest is like by far number one. Red Shaman is something that people wouldn't in 2007 say is even good. Like Red Paladins in Arena, maybe in 3s they were decent, but it's really strong in 2s.
I played recently on a 2.0 itemization server, TBC private server, and they had, I imagine that they'd gone on the Wayback Machine and seen archives of the actual Ret Paladin PvP gear. Did you know that a lot of the Ret Paladin Season 1 gear didn't have resilience on it?
Yeah.
I don't think any of it had resilience on it. Yeah. How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's I don't even know what to say. Like it was kind of like carrying over from Classic, right? Many of these
baby
specs. Yeah, exactly. They got patched over time, but they weren't really the main focus for the class. Paladins were healers.
Okay, so do you know who Kevin Jordan is? Class designer. So I've seen some interviews that he's been in and like podcasts, and the thing that boggles my mind in terms of like everything is
how he made TBC.
Well, he was a class designer, but
Yeah.
From what he says in his interviews, it doesn't sound like he was involved in any of the raid design or the PvP design.
Yeah.
How does that work?
I honestly have no idea. Whenever I listen to them talk about TBC, and
is it a fluke
TBC,
or what?
I think it's 100% a fluke. Like 100% a fluke, because they could never, in my eyes, copy TBC Arena ever again. They just made a worse and worse version of Arena ever since the first version of Arena.
Because homogenization or...
It's just like how they did... I'm not sure if how they did it, to be honestly, because many of the things that is in TBC just makes inherent sense.
Did they give us the toolbox? They gave us the classes with all these weird and wonderful spells, and it just happened to be balanced enough that it made sense, and then a little bit tweaking. Like I've gone into a lot of the theory crafting and stuff for warriors and things, and the numbers behind the scenes are very intelligently done. It's not just same stat all the time, and there are break points, and all of that seems really fun. At least from a warrior point of view. I haven't dived deep into other classes, but that's fun. That I can see someone with 200 IQ has made that decision, at least by the time 243 patch comes out at the end of TBC, where, you know, I'm looking at the warrior from. So that's really good. And like, so there is, you know, some, it's not all like, oh, Blizzard got lucky. There is some really good thought put into it.
Absolutely.
But from a PvP point of view and from a fundamental point of view, that decision needs to be made a lot earlier. And like, it's weird.
It's
thinking
like,
about how they got
the first season in WoW, in TBC, right? You still had the kind of the same CC, like the same CC durations. I think for the first week or something was the same as
and engineering items.
And engineering items.
Were there any other consumables that worked? Were they out from the start?
I think, I don't remember actually. I think none of them worked. I think it was just items. I don't think there was any like potions and stuff that were working in Arena. Like everything like that was
something that I remember from retail was getting a resurrection off. You would never get a resurrection off in 2021 playing TBC Arena.
No, it's like I remember watching like some PvP or a day ago or so that managed to get it off, and that was like the highlight of the
I've
year.
not seen that since like basically retail.
Yeah, that was, maybe he didn't even get it off. Maybe it was just close, and that was like hype enough to get it. He almost got it off, but exactly like you're saying, it's that doesn't happen anymore. It's like very streamlined. Arena today. It's like everybody knows kind of what to do and what and the deviations of what you're supposed to do, if that makes sense. Like everybody's basically spreadsheeted Arena.
You have your plan B, you have your plan A, and you also have your plan B. You know,
exactly, and your plan C, and your plan D, and it's like,
So I've got cooldowns, he doesn't have cooldowns, we're good. He has cooldowns, I don't have cooldowns, I need to, you know, kite and just really avoid it and then go back in.
And I think that what you're alluding to there is the beautiful aspect about TBC Arena, is that it's not around cooldowns to the same degree as it is in like Wrath.
Oh yes, some of the later expansions are all about cooldowns.
Exactly. And it's like that's the thing that I always think about. Is like
I feel bad for the commentators because they're like, oh, he used all the cooldowns, didn't kill him. Okay, guys,
20 minutes later,
let's just talk about what we ate for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh my god, it's kind of cringe.
It's really, to me, I don't want to insult people here, but it's really no skill in a way. And it's also like the way future expansions balanced it kind of ruined the whole how TBC was made in a way. I think like the cool thing about TBC is how the classes are designed. I think that's like, it's like genius for me, like how they managed to get these hybrid classes to still have something that is really, really powerful. Or but it scales.
Like hit rating is so good. Hit rating is worth X amount of spell damage or strength, and like the crit is also really like, it's just the armor reduction of a fairy fire scales with every item in the game that has that has armor penetration. And that's really fun. And it's the things that I think are really fun are when Blizzard used like the parry chance of the boss to tweak tuning. Like, you think to yourself, oh, well, we want to make the boss a little bit harder, a little bit easier. Oh, well, what do private servers typically do? Who, the bad private servers at least, they just increase boss HP and increase boss damage. That makes the fight harder. But you can also do other things that are more subtle, like make the boss hit the tank more often or less often, and that can just have a run-on effect on everything else. You need more healers. Well, straight away, your damage has dropped by 1000 DPS to a healer, and or you could have just increased the boss's HP
in that way.
Yeah.
Like, I 100% agree with you, and I think that's kind of the thing that I was really enjoying about TBC in general, is that I felt like it was an evolution of Classic.
Yes, people,
like in every sense.
People are like, oh, Classic Plus. Why is Classic Plus ever a discussion when you have TBC, which is essentially that?
I think for a lot of people, the only thing that I dislike about TBC is the world in TBC.
Yes, it's the flying mounts,
Yeah, it's the world. It's also Outland, and I know this might... Me personally, I'm not that big into science fiction and stuff. I like it the more grounded, and for me, Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms or whatever, it fits more like the MMOs I enjoy to play. Outland was way out there, right? Like, it was you were out in space, you were flying around on flying mounts, you were like, these things were really daunting in the beginning. Like, I know a lot of people say Cataclysm was like the biggest change they did. To me, TBC was like really ballsy in every sense, because it was... a lot of people quit because of the world in Outland in the early stage,
really?
myself included. I only made it to level 62 in the first part.
I do find it interesting. I can see people doing it, because it is, you have a really good game, like it's 10 out of 10, let's say, and they release an expansion, and in the first 2 weeks it's like 6 out of 10. So why do one more sub? But like, the way I've always said it is, Blizzard had to do something in terms of marketing. They have to add features that are marketable, and flying mounts, unfortunately, is what pushes copies of the game off the shelf.
Yeah.
So I don't blame Blizzard, but it's awkward.
I think I was watching some video about this earlier today, actually, and I think it was kind of like the issue was just the world in Classic was... like, per design, it's very like thin and long, and it's like it doesn't really... it has a lot of hotspots as well. It's like
choke points, PvP.
Exactly. And it's like it just doesn't make
Blackrock Mountain. Woo!
Yeah, it doesn't make for a great experience, to be honest. And TBC, they fixed that in every sense, right? Like, they made it all like clumped together. It was much...
it's almost like a circle.
Exactly, like in every zone, and
chat in the middle, more or less.
Exactly. Everything was it was like a better design of the map, to be honest. Like, that's it. I think TBC without flying mounts would work just as well, to be honest, if they would just fix the zones where you cannot access with flying mount and have normal flying mount, normal flight paths, etc. I think it would be a better game for me personally, and I don't think that's a hot take in any sense, but I think they made the blueprint there. They just made flying mounts to combat this big issue of having everybody circle through small places, like Blackrock Mountain as an example. Like, Blackrock Mountain is such a hotbed in Classic, right? Everybody goes there to gank people or dispel people these days. They didn't do that back then, but they do now. And having that was kind of like... even the Coilfang thing is kind of like a cool design as well. How you enter SSC and all these things. It was slightly different. It wasn't just like... well, it was kind of a choke point in Coilfang as well, I guess, but not to the same degree as in Blackrock Mountain, because you had MC and Blackwing Lair on top of each other, and that was... I think TBC without flying mounts would work. It's my conclusion, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, it's funny that Blizzard do baby steps when it comes to things like Paladins and giving them resilience and making them a viable thing. But things like flying mounts, I feel like the marketing team just went off, and I appreciate that it is difficult for game designers to have that conversation to convince, because the game needs to be marketed, and that's just the way the world works. We may have never got, the TBC might have ended 6 months in if people weren't playing it to the extent that they did because of flying mounts. Exactly. We might not have got Wrath Lich King, but it would have been nice. It would have been better in hindsight, obviously, if they could have done some sort of baby steps with flying mounts, with it
Yeah,
being
I
select
think so as well.
zones or slower speed, or have it be like limited duration. Like you have, I don't know, 60 minutes of flying mount per day, then your mount gets tired and you need to wait until tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Just anything really to make it like make the world a bit more engaging. I think they did that slightly better in Wrath because they at least designed the zones around Flying Mount. I think what is it, Nagrand? No, Nagrand. Blade's Edge Mountain is like the only thing that's like remotely, and the entrance to some dungeons, I guess, as well in TBC.
I
But
think maybe they were teasing. They knew that Flying Mounts was going to be in Outland, so they designed some of the zones with that in mind. And Blade's Edge Mountains, I think, is a tease to say, wouldn't this be easier with a flying mount? But like, it's just an awkward zone because you have to go through specific cave entrances or ramps to get and maneuver. So yeah, it's awkward, and you think, oh my god, I wish this expansion has flying mounts. I can't wait to get my flying mount.
Yeah, I think you're 100% on there. I think they wanted people to get flying mounts, right? Like it was also how they made flying mounts, like just the fact that you had, and again to incentivize arena, right? Like you would have a 310 mount drop coming from arena if you were top end PvPer, but you could only get 280% if you were a filthy casual. And I think that approach of Blizzard was the main thing that made me enjoy WoW as well, was that they really differentiated between players. And I know that's not maybe something that people enjoyed back then, I'm not sure, but for me that made me want to play the game because I wanted to be that guy that had the 310 mount, right? Like I wanted to have an inherent bonus by the time I spent in the game, right? And it was even larger of a discrepancy back then, I guess. But yeah, I think just their design in general in TBC was really, really good throughout the entire expansion, I would say.
How many people are rolling around on an arena glad mount, 310% speed, herbing or mining?
I'm not sure. Like, I have no idea. But
I can't imagine it's many, you know? And that's kind of like the PvE players, I need that 30%. But in reality, I don't think the Gladiator players are really doing much with that 310, you know?
Exactly what you're saying. Like,
so I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, no. I know not a lot of people. Like there was some flexing, of course, going on around.
Yeah.
Like it is in every expansion, I guess, but it wasn't to the same degree. I think other people could have used it better, I guess.
But also the Glad mount, it didn't require the skill to be trained for Epic, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and that I like those incentives, to be honest. Like I think that's something that's really lost in the game in every sense. Like I know a lot of people say these things all the time, where they go up to someone and inspect them, and they had this, wow, I want to be that guy one day or whatever. And I felt like that was lost after TBC. And I know a lot of people
it gets easier and easier because like in Nax, there was so few guilds got into Nax, let alone cleared Nax. So the Nax was absolutely like the top of the top. There's never been a raid like it. And even in like MMO history across the board, there were like, I don't know, it might be number one, don't quote me, but it might be like the rarest raided, you know, as a percentage of the player base to ever get to in the world.
I think it was 1% to clear Nax.
0.1%, bro. It's like less than one.
Maybe it was something like that. I remember it was something with a 1 at least. It was very low percentage.
It's
but
crazy.
Again, like if we go to TBC and have the same discussion there, and you look at Sunwell, right? Like you have a raid that's released for top end raiders. Like when would Blizzard do that? Maybe they would today because of the world first races and stuff, but for a long time that was non-existent after that. Like Wrath didn't exist at all.
It's awkward though from their point of view because of having the hard modes. Like that made things way easier for them.
Yeah, I agree. But it also, like, for me, diluted the whole thing because I wanted to go to Sunwell to clear it or see other people clear
killing
it.
Lich King on normal mode before you kill him on the real mode, it was stupid.
It doesn't really make sense for me in like an MMO world. I want to have a difference in players, and you could like that. I think that's one of the big things that makes current WoW not that good, is because players will become better, and they will learn, and they will one day, if they want to, become better or one of the best if they want to, or join better guilds and whatever. It's a progression, right? But they kind of cut that progression out with the game, so it's like no longer, it doesn't really exist unless you're a really, really, really high-end raider these days, and the rest, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. Back in Classic and TBC, you had that kind of a split where you had like a low-end raiding guild, a mid-tier guild, a high-tier guild, depending on what raids you cleared, right? Like, it just made sense automatically. These days, it's way convoluted, in my eyes at least.
We've got a really good comment from Mike in the chat, who I used to raid with. Hi Mike, thanks for watching. He's talking about he doesn't really get why, like, the hate for flying mounts, and I'm just reading through his comments and I'm thinking it would be interesting if flying mounts were delayed one expansion behind, perhaps. That's my comment. So you had flying mounts in Azeroth but not in Outland, and then when Wrath of the Lich King came out, it was in Outland. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be a better change.
Could you imagine, like the announcement? Oh, marketing! Flying mounts are in our new expansion, and it's like, oh wow, that's really good. But you can only use them in the old ones. Yeah. So if you're a high-end raider, you'll literally never see a flying mount.
Yeah. I mean, I think anything to get rid of flying mounts in the current game would be nice, except maybe Wrath, because it was so hard designed around flying mounts. But in TBC, I would definitely just like put some fucking ramps everywhere and just like just have us run around on normal mounts.
But I get what Mike is saying as well in chat, saying that it's not that big of, like, when was the last time I got ganked whilst I was on my land mount running somewhere? Basically never. It's in the hub. It's in Booty Bay, or it's outside Nax. You know, I'm not getting ganked in that sense. And again, to be honest with you, I give Blizzard so much cred for their foresight in general, because there's no way back in Classic, in Vanilla or TBC, you would think that people are playing this game to this extent in 2021. Like, it's impossible.
I don't think
they're trying to fix bugs and push the next patch. They're like, shit, I've got this work to do, and we've got an expansion coming. Damn, dude, I'm sleeping under my desk as it is.
Yeah, I remember, like, just from the early, like, if you just go back to when Classic was released, or Retail Classic was released, they only made like 1 million copies, I think, and because I remember. I had to order a copy and I didn't get it because they sold out. So I had to like travel around in my part of Sweden just to find a box in some store that maybe forgot to like order it out or something. Because it was really scarce, and a lot of people had to wait at least a month, I think, until they could get hold of the game even. So I don't think they had any idea about like just how big the game would
That's
become.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like pre-orders and stuff barely existed back then, right? Like
you'd have to like do order a mail-in for ring up on your phone and order it. Got your my number is 123.
Yeah,
my
and
address
if someone else came and wanted that copy, they would just sell it, right? Like they wouldn't sit on it for you or wait until you came. They would just give it to someone else and say, "Oh, sorry, we sold that copy. You have to find it somewhere else."
Like, how nice is it for companies to do digital downloads now? Because you sell one copy or sell 1 million copies. The legwork, like, there isn't the investment up front.
Yeah, I agree, but there was something about like the midnight releases that I really miss. It was like, maybe it's the inner nerd in me, but I really enjoyed doing that as a young kid. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was amazing to go there with like so many people at midnight as a 14-year-old just waiting for the same game and just having like open discussion. Like people were just talking shit about the game, like not shit, but I mean we were just talking about the game and just like sharing things. That was I wouldn't trade it for the world.
And then you're like, all these guys are noobs. I still feel like I'm alone.
Exactly.
That's good. Did I? No, I didn't. Did I? I'm trying to think. Did I ever do a WoW midnight launch? I didn't. I think I did a Call of Duty. Forgive me, guys. And I did Xbox 360. I've got no WoW
That's
stories.
something, I guess. I did classic TBC, Wrath, and StarCraft 2 was the last one I
Oh,
did.
that's cool.
Never again.
Oh, that's cool. Because were you GM in StarCraft 2?
No, I was not. I didn't
Oh.
play that much. I just played it because it was fun. I played a lot of Wings of Liberty beta.
Oh, okay.
And then I didn't really play that much once the game was out. I didn't really enjoy it. I played
Okay.
a bunch of Brood War though, but yeah, that was it.
Okay, I think I'm confusing with someone else that used
Yeah,
to
I
be
know.
GM, and because I played with a pro StarCraft 2 player on a TBC private server, and
Okay.
I was like, oh my god, like he's literally like the best StarCraft 2 player in the country, and he's like
Yeah.
playing in the fucking private server guild that I'm leading. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm like getting starstruck.
Yeah, I think that was like that was one thing that I remember was a lot of like in my guild in Classic there was some CS players, there were some Quake players, like there was a lot of like all these different good players from different
Yeah,
games
that's
that
really
just
cool.
played a lot of WoW, like a lot of WoW. So yeah.
There was a documentary thing. I can't remember what it was called, but I can't remember what it's called. It was the something, I think. Yes, Mike. It was the Muslim who I played with, and they had this really cool documentary where they had, I don't know how hardcore the guild was, but they were talking about like their real lives involved and like what jobs they had, and they were generally interesting people who had quite fulfilling lives outside of the game. And that was interesting to see that you can be successful in the game and successful outside the game, and in the same way that you can be successful in WoW and also successful in other games, which I think is interesting, like with the Quake CS and things like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, gaming was much smaller back then, right? Like in general, if you were good in one game, that would traverse.
You had an internet connection, a computer at 30 FPS.
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
Top 1% straight away.
It was completely different. Like just going to, I played as we do here in Sweden, right? I played a lot of Counter-Strike as well, and traveled around playing on different lands and stuff. And winning a tournament back then would net you maybe like 24 pack of Coca-Cola, right? Like that was like a good price. It's completely
I'm coming back here next year. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wow, that's so good, right?
Yeah.
So it's a completely different world today. It's amazing to see, but it's completely different.
Yeah, it's so crazy how, and even now, for the longest time, maybe with like the Fortnites and the League of Legends, now and CSGO, gamers are getting the like the prize money and like the Dotas, and other games. I don't want to leave any game not mentioned, but you know what I mean. Where like I remember back in like the early StarCraft 2 days, like the tournaments were more for the competition than like the prize money, but it's so cool that people can like make a living off playing video games. Like I find that so cool, and that you do have like you can become famous from it and really have a good lifestyle playing these video games, and I think that's very cool.
And that's I think another thing that people forget a lot is just how big TBC Arena was for the time. Like it was basically the biggest esport at the time around 2007, 2008. But Blizzard just fucked it. They basically fucked it. They didn't invest anything in this at all. And it was massive. Like it was the highest viewer count by miles. Like Counter-Strike didn't have a chance back then, like in 2007. And
why do you think that is?
I think Blizzard are just horrible at doing esports, to be completely frank with you. Like, I don't think there's any like, just imagine the fact they had Dota and they just didn't see the potential in Dota. Like, that doesn't make any sense to anybody, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Even for the people that played Dota back then would scream for like a standalone game. And they just didn't ever take that opportunity. And the same thing would be said about TBC Arena, I would say. They saw the potential, like they saw the viewers, but instead of looking at it like, wow, what is this? Could we like
that's neat in
some way?
Anyway.
Yeah, they were like, oh, let's sell some more subscriptions, like in some different way. They never did anything with it. And even like looking at the world first race now, like something like that would have been big even back then, because there was a lot of attention going to the big guilds, the Insidious.
But infrastructure-wise, what would they do? Because you couldn't stream it.
There was a tournament on DreamHack where I think it was Nihilum and Meth method. I
Yes.
think they had like a live stream about it, and that was like a
Yes.
lot of people watching that.
Yes.
But it was just in a much smaller
Do you remember
scale.
which
And
raid it was?
I don't remember. I think it was a TBC raid though. I think it was maybe
Yes.
Black Temple or
I
something.
think it maybe was Black Temple.
Yeah.
And Nihilum just were ahead and stayed ahead. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
And I mean, that was
dope, dude. I'd love
Yeah.
to, if I become some sort of like TBC anybody, I'd love to have enough clout. Like, what's my goal of being like a content creator online? Have enough clout so I can just contact 2 guilds and set something like that up, because that'd be awesome. I know we've got like the speed running that we have in Classic, but it'd be so nice to without the world buffs, you can actually say like this Sunday night do this, whereas with world buffing, it's like, sorry, we can't do this, we're focused more on our Warcraft logs than a community project or something like that. Right, that would be awesome.
I mean, even like what you're talking about here is like there is a lot of interest in speedrunning Classic as well. Maybe not to the same degree, but there is a big interest in it. A lot of people watch the apes, etc. speedrun. They watch progress. It's just they have no outlet besides their streams, really. Like, there is no promotion from Blizzard. There is nothing, and so there's
no official capacity, no leaderboard.
Nothing.
Like, all you get is, I imagine, an automated blue post when the world first or the top 5 guilds get their kills.
Yeah,
I bet I bet they could easily just have that be an automated post, and that post is there already automated for the next 5 expansions of the Classic era realms that they release. Like, some guy just programmed that like in like a day or an afternoon, and that post is going to get posted.
Yeah,
like,
it's completely like thrown to the side, and I think that's been Blizzard's downfall. Not a downfall, but you know what I'm saying. Like, they had a lot of these things going for them, and they could have monetized it better, and they could have made it better. It's kind of sad that there's third parties have to do it, like with the world first races and stuff. It's like
Blizzard have such good like IP, and the game is so good,
in my opinion.
And they just like sit on it like, oh well, we'll hopefully get some more subscribers next month and we'll tick over. And it's like, oh well, and they're just so scared to do anything.
Yeah, it's like it's completely changed as well for me. Like, it used to be the gameplay, and the game was the main attraction to the game, and now it's like for people to see the storyline play out. It's like it's a completely different game.
In retail, it's about the storyline. Oh yeah, that's weird.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Even if I remember the only time I was ever like sad about something was in Classic, because I didn't get to see any of the big characters from Warcraft 3. Like, it was only Kel'Thuzad, and he was like a side character or like a small side thing, and that was like the big thing about TBC. You had Illidan coming, and that was like, wow, I really want to fucking kill Illidan. Like, that's gonna be amazing.
And
so it was like, I don't know, they didn't even rely on things like that back then. They would just make a good game.
World of Warcraft is it. On the box, you've got elves, you've got dwarves, and that's it. Whereas TBC, it's like, let's put some freaking warglaves on this bitch.
Exactly.
Ship the copies.
And I still think the 2 fights that they made with their character, like their what I would call big characters, like Illidan. I still think Illidan is probably the most epic fight they ever made.
Yeah.
In WoW, even in any sense, because it's just it's just a great fight in every way. I love.
It's really long. It's got down phases. It's got really intense phases. It's got, sometimes you're not even fighting Illidan in phase 2.
Yeah, and then you have a secret phase, like a secret thing. All of a sudden, like, that was a big thing. I remember when Maev pops out.
Oh, really?
That was like, that was super big. Like, nobody expected that at all. Like, at all. That was just,
and then you wipe immediately to the soft enrage afterwards.
Yeah, basically. Like,
and you're like, dude.
Yeah, it was like completely. It was completely nuts, right? Like, you couldn't expect something like that. I think they tried to copy that a lot afterwards, but for me, that was the first time I was like, wow, they really did something amazing here, like really amazing.
Oh, I remember in, was it Cataclysm, when Ragnaros got out and we see his legs? I suppose that was kind of the same thing. But again, with like the data mining and stuff, I think we knew he had rendered legs even before the raid came out.
Exactly.
So that's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, data mining wasn't like, the big thing from Classic was like people data mined Ashbringer, and I think it's still like a meme in a way. Like, people data mined a legendary Ashbringer, and that was like the big thing that everybody discussed. and they were like, where is this item, where can we get it? And
killing Hogger, it's not dropping.
yeah, exactly. It's like it has to be something with Nax, it has to be something with the corrupted Ashbringer, you have to bring that somewhere.
Another crafted item.
Exactly.
Is it a GM only item?
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to move on to, like, maybe we could do this in a different podcast? We can try a little bit now. So one thing that I wanted to kind of do, maybe as like a YouTube series, but we can start it now, is just have a quick reaction to, well, like a YouTube react video. Can you imagine? So some of you linked a video of, I don't know how well you can see this. Like, we could maybe press play at the same time and we just watch the video. So this is the Lady Vash video from the Legacy. Are you on 0-0?
Yep.
Okay, so on the count, when I say go, we go, okay?
Yeah, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yep.
Okay, so this is your guild.
Yep.
So this isn't the first kill, I can tell already, because he's got the Brutalizer.
True.
But to be honest, yeah?
Yeah, that was exactly the thing, like you were saying. It wasn't as much as wanting to, that, like you were alluding to there, didn't really want to show your first kills that much, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So people were deliberately not recording them.
Yeah, exactly. You had like, if you look at like the old method videos and stuff, it was usually after a lot of people already cleared, because you didn't want to give them the tactics, right? So sometimes you would have these runs, and I think a lot of these things is also to kind of like semi-EP in a way, if that makes sense.
Yes. No, like it didn't really matter as long as you were first. What mattered was how late number 2 came along.
Exactly. And showing raids like these, like the average player wouldn't notice things like you noticed here, like, oh, he has Brutalizer from this raid, so they would just have show these videos and be like, oh wow, they're so good, they actually managed to down the boss. I mean, that was the baseline, right? They managed to down the boss.
Yes.
So it's completely like different than it is today in every sense.
Like I can see this guy playing and I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, he's not doing, many things wrong at all. And one of the things that I really like is when he swaps weapon. It's like, even now in like 2021, there are so few players who actually are going to swap weapons in combat.
Yeah. I mean, I think that what you're saying there is, I think the average player back then were as good, they just didn't have the information that we have today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And also there wasn't the stigma, like if you saw a keyboard turner right now, you get shouted at like the moment you you can see a keyboard really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. You did. Like there was, I remember in our quite early, there was a big discussion about you had to unbind your S key.
Yeah.
Like S you could not have on your bind. You would have to bind some fucking stupid thing to your S key, so you wouldn't accidentally press it or like press it a lot.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like stigmatized back then already. Same thing with clicking. Clicking has always been kind of stigmatized, at least in the top echelons of the game.
Yeah.
But I just think like the average player, if I would count for myself, right? Like a lot of things that I didn't inherently know why, it just felt right, if that makes sense.
Yes. Like and then you see someone do the opposite and you're like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly. It's like rotations as an example. You wouldn't really necessarily like do the mathematically perfect rotation or watch someone else. You would go by something that felt nice. Okay, I can squeeze in 2 heroic strikes here or whatever, and then I could manage to pop a bloodthirst or whatever, and you would do that rotation, and then you would talk to your peers and you would be like, oh, I'm doing this, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this is what I feel is better. You would test that. Oh, he has a better approach than I have, I'm gonna try that. And so it was
he berserker rages here, which is really good, and he's stunning the ad. Like that is,
I think like a lot of the mechanical things are, I mean, these are good players, don't get me wrong. Like many of these players went on to great guilds after this, and they were really like top end players at this time. But like we were saying, like the high level players, I felt wasn't much worse. There was worse than they were today. No question about that. But I think it was simply down to the lack of knowledge in general. Like people didn't have the information that they have today. Just Discord servers and all these things that exist today, and just the sheer data you can manage to get, like that just didn't exist, right?
Yeah. That's really interesting.
And these are, like you're saying, a lot of these are, they've done this before, right? So they kind of know what the fight is up to.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you expect it to look smooth.
Yeah, exactly.
But
And a lot of the things like this were used for recruitment, right? You would use these videos
flexing
to show
exactly
and be like, come to our guild instead of going to Method or come to whatever guild. You want to go to us because look at how smoothly we can do Vash compared to Vash Method's first kill. Like, it was really that simple. You kind of tricked people into joining your guild in a way.
When you were talking about the rotation, I don't want to flex my EP much, but I can't, I first looked at my rotation online, like how to do it during Black Temple, and I just want to say my rotation as Prot Warrior was perfect. Like, apart from I was using Thunderclap, I was using Thunderclap a little bit more than just the debuff. But Shield Slam on priority, Revenge, and then Devastate. Like it was.
That, like you were saying there, that's good. Another thing that I remember, like people, that was a big thing that everybody just said, spam Sunder. Like, all you need is Sunder. Sunder is the best one. Heroic Strike is a useless ability. So things definitely changed, but but
that's good game design as well, that it feels good to do the best rotation.
Yeah, exactly. I think like as I said earlier, I think Classic or WoW in general was like genius levels in a lot of senses.
It's like,
because there's no other game to this date has that feeling to it. Like, no MMO I've played before this or after has had that intricacies to it. It's always been kind of streamlined or easy or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like noob friendly, and that's the sort of thing where when WoW came out, it was considered noob friendly. You didn't lose, you died, you didn't lose any items. Yeah, you just had a very small repair cost.
Yeah, I think to its detriment, a lot of these things
to WoW
today,
Classic, exactly. You don't lose ever.
Exactly.
At worst, you lose the world buffs.
Hurt because of that, right? Like no penalty and stuff.
Yes. But I think it's interesting, like looking at the UIs, seeing what they're kind of prioritizing. Yeah. Seeing they've got timers and all this stuff. Like, I think what a lot of people compare the old raiders to the raiders now is, like, again, that raid composition is bad. This person's not doing this ability, and it's like, you're not comparing the same thing at all. The classes can change, like the patches. Like, you have people like, look, why they're bringing rogues in. Well, if you're bringing a tier 3 rogue into a 2.0 server with 2.0 talents, it's not the same.
Yeah,
the game was designed back then for rogues to be in the roster, and also if you're playing 243 talents on a 243 client in a nerfed Karazhan raid, that's not the expected that's not what a rogue is designed to do. The rogue is designed to be, you're using Sunwell patch talents on a Sunwell patch client on a entry level raid. Like, that's not where the rogue is designed to be. Like, the rogue, like every player is, designed, like, same for the big example I always come to is Wrath of the Lich King in was it 3.3? Is that the Ice Cramp, the last patch?
3.3.5, right? I think
that sounds good. Yeah. Like, if you're leveling a warrior, you're one-shotting with Revenge. It's because you're not using a Revenge that's made for leveling. You're using a Revenge that's designed around Ice Crown.
Yeah.
And Revenge sucks in Ice Crown because everything that scales nicely, Revenge just stays where it is. But in order for it to not, like, they did weird scaling with the Revenge, but that's just how it is. And that's it.
It's also like how the different classes were valued. I remember, like, Shadow Priest as an example. I played a bit of Shadow Priest in TBC. Like, that wasn't considered a good class in any stretch of the imagination. There was like some good players, those people like Muck and Nihilum and stuff, but they were always considered to be like allowed to play Shadow Priest instead of it being a good class, because you also have to count for fights being forever, right? Priest run and why would I want to have a Shadow Priest standing there wanding when I can have a Warlock? Or like, same thing goes with mages. Mages were not really considered good at
But,
all
like,
in
Warlock
TBC.
with the live tap just seems like the most, as soon as you start
Broken
playing
thing.
a new MMO and you can't run out of mana, everybody else in the game is running out of mana, and there's
Yeah,
one caster that cannot run out of mana. It's like, oh,
yeah,
that's pretty
Warlock
good.
I think is one of the classes that they really got wrong in TBC, but because it doesn't have any weaknesses really, to be
Yeah.
honest.
But people
But
still get it wrong. That's what I don't understand. Like, people
yeah,
complain about all this stuff, and you still see Locks live tapping before raid AoE's coming. And it's
yeah, I
like,
mean,
bro,
yeah, it's
come on, dude.
yeah, it's pretty
But
bad. I
it's
mean,
not. It's
kind
by
of
no means fixed. The Warlock gameplay is by no means solved. It's
yeah. I think that's the beauty in WoW in general, is that you can spreadsheet it no matter how much you want. Like, you can
yeah,
attest to this as well for being a speedrunner. You can math everything out and you can do anything perfectly, but it's about executing it and
yes.
doing it, and that doesn't happen. The human error and the human and you also play under stress, and you play under different things just gets to you and makes you fuck up. And once you fuck up, how do you deal with that? And it's like,
It's just
it's almost,
triggering.
yeah, exactly. It's like you
Tilting.
fucking up, and then that's in the back of your mind, and then you fuck up something else, and then you continue to fuck up, and it's like it's not as easy as it seems in theory, if that makes sense.
Yes, like you see someone else's speedrun and you think, oh, they mispressed the spell, or oh, now they're triggered. It's like, bro, look at any of my VODs. It's exactly the same or
Yeah.
worse,
Yeah, or not having weapon skill for an entire raid, or
Wow, I'm getting called out.
no, dude. I died at every speed run, so don't
Did you?
question it. Oh, every time.
Dude,
I was always going in. I wanted to. You want to do your best, right? You want to squeeze out every DPS you can. So I always managed to die to some stupid shit. So could have just played it safer, and that wouldn't happen.
The first time you make it through a speedrun without dying, that's a good feeling.
Yeah. When that never happened to me. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it probably did, but it wasn't many times. It wasn't many times.
Well, we didn't do much reacting specifically to. I'm going to watch the video again. Do you want to hit replay?
Yeah, sure.
3, 2, 1, go.
Go.
Like, I just find it interesting, just looking back at these raids and how people approach them.
Yeah, it's also like another thing that I think, I'm not sure how many people know about this, but like Vash had a big issue with despawning in the early stages. Like, you would get to 5%, I think it was 5%, and then she would just despawn. And the same thing was with, was it Kale or was it Solarian? It was something in TK that just, you couldn't kill the bosses. Like, it was they would just despawn. And the same thing with Mag was like super hard in the beginning. SSC trash.
Half an hour respawn, right?
Yeah, and they were super hard. Like, for the time it is,
yes,
and maybe not, but they would respawn super fast, and they would hit you super hard, and you would wipe, and you would rest, and then you would respawn, and you would be like, it was just, I think that's a lot of my hatred for SSC comes from, is from those early stages. Yeah,
I like SSC and you hate it. Yeah,
it's a good raid. I think like every raid in TBC is a better raid than any in Classic in general. Like, but it's just like you have a lot of PTSD from these fights and these raids.
I see quite a lot of similarities between Nax, Rammus, and Karazhan. They're both long, epic raids with very varying bosses, and it's almost like going to the zoo. You have, wow, this really unique, amazing looking thing, and then you just turn around the next corner and you're amazed again and again and again. Like, it's a real thrill to do those kind of raids.
Yeah, I felt like they really respected their players back in especially TBC, I would say. Maybe not so much Classic, or towards the end of Classic probably, but I think in TBC it felt like they made raids harder, and they made them better. I think just because they got better as well, but they didn't really dumb anything down in TBC, in my opinion. Like, every raid was a progression, and it was made better. I think SSC TK started pretty good already. Like, I think it was basically better than Nax in a lot of ways. Then BT was, Hydrol was, I guess, their big flop of TBC.
It's so sad. Like, TBC ready would be perfect without Hydrol. Oh my God.
I mean, for me, that was like the raid I was most excited about, Hydro,
Oh,
and the one I enjoyed. I enjoyed it a lot in the beginning because it was so different than any other raid, right? You're in an open space, you're in this like, I don't know, iconic Warcraft fight.
and had you played Warcraft 3 and all of that
Oh
beforehand?
yes. It's a lot of Warcraft 3. I still play like the campaign of Warcraft 3
Oh,
like every third year or something like that.
okay.
It's one of my favorite games. So
At
yeah,
least you didn't say every year Thursday.
yeah, yeah. No,
Not on
like
that level. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I was a big Warcraft 3 fan. So seeing Hyjo was really cool. The first week, I guess I would say, and the second week wasn't that nice, and the fights aren't really that amazing
Yeah,
either.
Archimonde is cool. I like Archimonde, and
Archimonde is
that's
really
about
really
it.
cool. Yeah, I liked Archimonde as well, and that was about it. But Black Temple I think is amazing. I
Oh
think
yeah, that's another. So many cool encounters, all very mechanically very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, and Sunwell to me was, I was almost like surprised by Sunwell, if that makes sense. I didn't think they could do something like that or wanted to do something like that. Like, Sunwell to me was my second favorite raid of all time after Ulduar. I think Ulduar is their best one, but Sunwell, and I'm one of those guys that I like when things are hard. So I
Yeah.
guess it kind of lines up with me in that degree. But it was also the aesthetic about Sunwell was really really fun. Something different. You also had the Isle of Keldanas or whatever was
Yeah.
it called, Isle of Keldanas.
Yeah.
That patch I also enjoyed. I like the whole island thing, though. It always turned out to be a lot of like world PvP for.
Oh yeah,
TBC.
that was good. It brought together no flying mounts in Alcaldanas.
Yeah, exactly.
That was fun. I forgot that.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that entire thing. With the end of TBC. So I felt like they always made the game better in TBC. Like throughout every patch, it was just better and better and better.
That's interesting.
Then Wrath came, yeah.
And what are your thoughts on Wrath?
I didn't enjoy it at all. Like I rated because I was in. You're kind of invested in that.
Yes.
That time, right? Like you played with these people for a long time. You've achieved some things together. And then you had Nax come out, the Wrath of the Lich King version of Nax.
Yeah.
And it was such a letdown.
Oh
and,
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no.
And then you had like Malygos. Malygos was terrible. I hated Malygos. Like any vehicle fight, and there were so many vehicle bosses in
Again,
Wrath
it
in
was
general.
that was their like Winter Grasp. That was their like marketing.
Yeah.
You know, we have epic vehicle battles. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Winter Grasp is like there was also like you were supposed to be able to fly and stuff with like airships, and it was sold as this like big grand thing, and everybody, especially playing there, was really excited for it, but it just didn't turn out that way at all. It was just a hassle to do, right?
But it rewarded so much honor, you had to do it. You were like a slave to the system. And Blizzard, they're like, oh wow, we've got so many players playing Wintergrass every day. Wintergrass is a huge success. Meanwhile, general chat, I hate my life.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, and it was just like, especially with the skewed balance on servers and stuff. It was like,
oh yeah, oh,
you would have like one guy on some servers playing against like 20 people, but he'd get like 1 million bonus damage and stuff. It was just really really bad design in every way.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it's funny. So weird.
Yeah, but TBC in general, I think, was their best. I think it was just their best game. They did.
It's close enough to Classic that it still is WoW in its rawest form, but it's the second expansion, so they were able to have like a fresh slate in the sense of we want to do fundamental changes. Like all the classes got huge changes in the pre-patch 2.0.
And it was cool changes as well. It wasn't just like, if you would look again back to Shadow Priest, it's not just like, okay, we're increasing the numbers to match the numbers with something else. It's like, here you have this mana battery roll. Like that was so like out of the box thinking.
Yeah.
that it was just like really, really cool. And the same thing applied to basically everything. Like same enhancement shamans, you would have a attack power buff for your melee group.
Yeah.
All these things I felt was like they just improved on the, like you said, the recipe of classic. They just made it better. Yeah. So for me, that was the pinnacle of WoW for me, TBC in every way.
If Kevin Jordan or whoever's creating the classes for TBC, if you're in that position where you make the mana battery class Shadow Priest, and then in 3 months' time you start seeing wide adoption of Shadow Priest, like that is must be such a good feeling. Like you've planted a seed into the game, and the players are not yet aware about it because like the meta isn't there or whatever, and then all of a sudden, Nihilum or someone uses a Shadow Priest to great effect on a fight, and people are like, oh, actually, my eyes are open, and we're going to start trying that. Like, that's really cool, I think, from a game design point of view, where so you have exploration in the sense of going to a new zone and uncovering new bosses, but also having exploration in terms of raid comp, I think is really, really good game design and gameplay.
Exactly. It's like one of the things that I enjoyed the most about in Classic wasn't raiding particularly. It was like trying to find small edges in like raid comps or item. What's this wacky item that we can like slap on somebody, and what does that add to the totality of the raid? Like things like that was just so cool in both like TBC, less so in terms of items, but just the classes. I felt like that was a better design in every sense. You can attest to this more than I can because you've done more private servers than I have, and the comps were less optimal back then for me when I was raiding. But just like looking at the things like Red Paladins was a meme when I was raiding, but now you see them being very like they're being used. You want to have things like feral, like we were watching one of your stream, we were talking about the breakpoints of ferals versus prot warriors and things like that. Like all of these things I feel is such a cool thing about TBC that they just never managed to recapture after that. I think because of the homogenization and stuff. But
yeah, and I think they want to I think they're scared in like they want. I mean, I don't want to speak for Blizzard, but I think they want to kind of have a goal that they want to not deviate from so much. Like they have almost like an upper and a lower limit of where they want to go with everything in the game, and if the players complain, they can draw it back, but no further than what they've already kind of assigned, because like I don't know, it's hard to explain.
It's exactly like you're saying. In Wrath, I remember there was a lot of people complaining when they were playing hybrid classes, and there was a blue post. I don't think I can find it, but maybe there was a blue post from one of the developers or community manager or something when they were discussing hybrid classes, and they were talking about like a lot of hybrids were complaining about their lack of damage, because that was just the fact in TBC, right? Like you had the pure damage dealers, they were at the top, and then you had the support classes or whatever you want to call it, the hybrids, they were below them, and the hybrid classes were complaining a lot, like why can't I do the same damage as a warlock, and why can't I do the same healing as whatever. And it just felt like Blizzard catered to these people and wanted to make they because it's like me and Dumpy were talking about in Classic. It's like nobody looks at the damage that a Blessing of Might does to a raid because it doesn't show up on numbers.
And it's difficult to work out. It's always different based on the comp, based on the boss. Like it's very difficult. Hopefully that's something that we could get with like logs these days. Like adding pets to the hunter DPS, stuff like that. I remember that being like a big thing. Because like, oh look, I'm like it's just cringe that people think that, you know, oh, your hunter's doing 600 DPS. Well, my pet's doing 300 and that's beating you. Oh, and then they shut up.
That doesn't count.
Or like absorbs from from priest healing.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but it's I think that's one of the nice parts about like just Classic and TBC is that Classic less so because the meta is like so figured out. I'm not sure about. What do you think about TBC meta? Do you think it's solved right now, or do you think something new will come out with? Well, you don't think so?
I'm looking forward to the beta so much, and if anyone has any Blizzard influence, please, I would do a lot for a beta key. But like, so in Classic, we had fundamental things that private servers got wrong. And let's say that there were, for argument's sake, 10 things or 20 things that private servers got wrong. That's fine. I think for TBC, they're going to be 10 times the amount of things that private servers got wrong, because projects like Nostalvius, they had so much love. Really, right? They had in so TBC. Much. They had love and attention, and lots of what's the word? Time spent in trying to research the game. And all these private servers, if you've ever been involved in a private server, like I've never been like affiliated like other than playing a private server, but I have, dabbled a little bit in helping people. But like they have like documents of like web archive links, old YouTube channels, and like Warcraft movies and stuff, where they're literally like, this timestamp is the source for the armor value of this NPC, or of the scaling of this. We can see what there's all this really like bending over backwards trying to find out the values of these things. And like I'm so amazed that projects like Nostalvius got as much right as they did. Anyway, to get to my point, there has been less time and dedication put in as a community into TBC and TBC emulation as a whole. So I expect there to be 10 times more things that TBC private servers got wrong. And I'm looking forward to that so much, because there were so many things where, like the heroic strike queuing in Classic, where if it makes a good class even better. And there are things like, there might be something where, warlocks aren't quite as good as they are, or it might be warlocks are even better than what they are on private servers. Like, so if you make any kind of comparison, or if you're watching YouTube guides or trying to do something yourself, just bear in mind that the information that you have is not going to be 100% right. And I think that's exciting, because at least until we get beta, and even after beta, there'll still be things that are found out, like, boss mechanics. This can be spell reflected, or this works in this way, or these things stack, or this cancels something else out. And that whole thing is going to be really fun to dive into and just find out how it all works. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, me too. What do you think about the some changes thing? Except the drums and stuff. Like the drums, I think doesn't really matter that much, no matter what they do, unless they really gut them. But is there anything you would want to see changed at all?
I am so happy that we have pre-nerf. That is,
me too.
Like,
me too.
If I had 2 tick boxes, it would be TBC Classic and pre-nerf. And if I had 3, it'd be like progressive itemization, probably. Like I don't think we need weapon skill. I think expertise on launch is fine, but it's awkward, because if you have progressive itemization, that just means that tier 3 is so good for so long. Like that's a bit silly, particularly if you want to have like a fresh slate, or you're re-rolling, or you're joining a new guild or whatever. It's pretty awful if you're basically, okay, well, I've done my heroics for the day, we don't raid until 5 days, LFM Nax Ramus, because that's the only source of upgrades I have.
That's one thing that I actually wanted to talk to you about.
Yes.
And what do you think about heroics? Because one thing that I'm really sad about, especially with the announcement of no fresh servers, is that for me one of the greatest things about TBC, and maybe it's not the same for you, is the heroics. I really, really enjoy heroics. And with the people being so set up the way they are now, with people having alts ready for spellfire sets and all the things, do you even think heroics will be a thing? Like, for the new players, will they even have a chance to get into heroics, is what I'm saying, besides playing with other new players? Because people will be just so decked out by now. Doing heroics will not even barely exist, right? Like as a way of content, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, my predictions are hardcore guilds will do 0 heroics week 1, besides the attunement for the urn for Nightbane, and any prep if there are tier 5 quests ready for the attunement for the next phase. So hardcore guilds will essentially be doing as few heroics as they can, unless they're waiting for their second 5-man team to get ready for Kara or something. Like they will only use it as a buffer for extra time. So basically, hardcore guilds will want to avoid heroics. I think heroics week 1 are for the player in a guild where they're just a quick leveler or a no-lifer or a serious player versus a more casual compared to them guild. So that'll give them some content to do.
Would you bring someone, like as an example now, you would be a new player, right? You would have someone that just got 70. And
on launch?
We say there's a new he had a 60, they played in classic or whatever.
Reroll shaman, whatever.
He bought the boost. He got 58 and now he's 70 with you. Would you ever bring that guy in like quest item gear when you're in Nax gear? Like, would you ever do that?
It depends. Okay, so I was playing on this private server called Endless, and I was looking for one more Shadow Labs or whatever, and they have an armory. So I had 5 whispers. I searched 5 people on the armory, okay? I can see their gear. I see quest gear. They all have quest gear because it's a fresh server. Yeah. Okay, so none of them are, mega tryhards. But one of them, the hunter, had the PvP trinket from the Zangarmarsh, PvP thing. It's like 62 attack power, and on honorable kill or XP, it gave you mana and life back, I think. And I know that's a particularly good trinket for hunters. So I invited him because I know that he had specifically gone for gone for a good hunter trinket. So I get him in. So that unravels another question. Do we think we'll get armory in TBC? Because there was one back in the day. I don't think we necessarily will.
Probably not.
I don't think it's a priority. Oh, we have this thing in retail. Let's put it back in TBC. Like, that's not a priority.
I mean, one thing I would really, really enjoy, and I would like a leaderboards for Arena. I like that thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe you could add an armory as well, just for that fact. But I don't really care that much.
Oh my god, mate! When you like seeing Arena, like an armory where it's 3 golden freaking glad like rank 1. Oh my god, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it would be nice. I think maybe they should add something like that into the game. I know there's a lot of people that they want like things like dual spec and things, and I don't get that
I don't
at all.
find the duals. Okay, that's interesting because I know that Sam, if he were here, he'd be on the side of wanting dual spec, and I'm against dual spec. For this, if people can physically play, like it gets rid of player identity. If you're known as being the disc priest, like I like the fact from a gameplay point of view that it's awkward for you to change from being the disc priest or me being the prot warrior. No, someone whispers me, "Yo, can you tank this dungeon?" Because I know you're a tank. And it's like, oh, sorry, bro, I'm Fury right now. Like, it's nice.
I was listening to Kevin Jordan talk about this in one interview, and I think he had a really, really good point about things like this, and it's something I haven't really thought about myself before. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about you really don't have a lot of gold sinks in
yes, it was the stay safe one.
Yeah, exactly. You really only have repair bills and you have respecs, and I agree with that because the economy in like people want to have some middle ground of everything, and I don't really get that because a lot of the games that I enjoy the most is like full loot PvP, and in games like that it makes sense because you have a constant way. Exactly, and
but you gain so much more. You lose so much more, but you gain so much more. Yeah,
exactly.
Or seasons, where it all gets wiped.
Like imagine you look at Joker D as an example now. He's farming Mara all day. I'll just be camping outside Mara and kill him every day and get his gold. And then someone would kill me and you would have a decaying corpse and you would have all these things. Like all these things take money out of the economy all the time. You have nothing like that in WoW. And it's to the degree now where
you do in retail.
Yeah.
WoW token.
I guess, yeah, but it's still like, again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
You just keep playing and it doesn't really do that much to combat it. But I mean, just the fact, like I as an example, in my server in Classic going to TBC, the guy that had the most gold on the server, he had 10,000 gold on the entire server. Yeah. Like how many do you think will come in with more than 10k gold in TBC?
Yeah. So many. What I like to ask again is the average. What's the average 60 going into TBC with? A K?
Yeah.
And what would it? Well, no. So for what? So in Classic, in Vanilla, it would be like what? Like 500. I don't know. 400. Like people were really scraping the gold together back in the day, but now it's like, I don't know. Like it's hard to say because I don't know the whole breadth of the spectrum of WoW players. I only know it from a very narrow portion that I played.
Yeah,
from.
Me too.
It's going to be, 5 times as much, at least.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I haven't thought about, because I haven't really dipped my toes yet into the TBC prep that much. Like I've done my arena prep. That's basically
that's your prep.
Not much of a PvE prep. But is it really true, the whole like flip-flopping between professions thing? Do you think that will be a meta thing for the top kills? Like,
yes, it will be absolutely, absolutely.
That's a money sink. That's a big money sink, isn't it? Is it not? Maybe not big, but
what I don't hear a lot of people talking about, I've literally never heard anyone talk about this gold sink in the game. So I'll quiz you quickly. Can you name me the gold sinks in the game quickly, or just briefly, or like you don't have to go through every single one, but like what are they?
TBC or classic?
In classic,
it's like gear, like enchantment. It's gemming. It's.
But where does that? So let's say I buy a large brilliant shard. How's that a gold sink?
Auction house.
Exactly. Yeah. The auction house is what, 5% cut?
It's a lot. In classic, is it not 10%? No,
I don't know. I don't use the auction house for selling stuff.
I'm
a poor boy. But anyway, that is where the gold sink is. I think the auction house is 100 times more of a gold sink than talents, than getting your epic mount, than getting your Nax Ramus attunement. Like, you're paying gold into all these things, and it's like, for this, I'm gonna cross topics again. People jump onto what they are aware of, and it's like, just what's easy to bully, and like hashtag no changes for vanilla WoW, and it was like, haha, you did want changes, you think you do but you don't. And it's like, bro, would you trust Activision Blizzard releasing classic WoW in 2019 with anything other than no changes, right, reinforced every day for the full development cycle of WoW Classic? No, that no changes was fundamentally the way to go, because could you imagine what Classic would like the thing I always harp back onto is the pristine servers. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so the timeline really quickly. You think you do but you don't. We got told no. And then years later, pristine servers. Pristine servers are what are they like whatever the expansion was at the time. It was a server that was it was an exact copy of the live server with the live expansion, except the level cap was reduced to 60. And that was the server. That was a legacy. No, what's it called? Pristine server. And that was their first pitch to the community as a classic.
Wait, no, I remember this.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, you're right.
And it's like, bro. And can you imagine the community after they have pitched that to say anything other than no change? We want it. We do not touch the game whatsoever. Okay? Because that's mental. Like, and then people are online saying, haha, like, this whole no changes, like, echo chamber thing. And it's like, bro, you're making fun of people for saying no changes in Classic. But, bro, you couldn't have asked, like, it would have been mental if you let Blizzard have changes. Like,
yeah, I have no trust in Blizzard at all, especially after playing Classic now.
Yeah,
Classic was just terrible. I'm sorry for, like, I get the people that still play Classic, and I still see the value in it, especially with the people you play with, but the game is horrible. Like, it's in every sense of the way. It's nothing really.
I agree with you 100%, and you put it in the exact terms that I would have as well. The game is horrible, fundamentally, but it's the players that you play with. Like, you're playing it 100% for the community that you're in. Like,
just War Chief's blessing alone as the lines, like, that made me not want to play the game. I don't get how people still can do that today. Like, I bow my head to them. I'm super impressed. Just no way. Like, I couldn't do that.
But no. Why do people complain so loudly about leatherworking drums, but so quietly about War Chief's blessing?
I don't get that. at all. I don't get it at all.
One
Like,
of them is
I think
30% and one of them's
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah,
One of them
and, like,
requires a profession, one of them doesn't.
it's not only a profession. You need a second account if
If
you're
you're Alliance, you need to
a
invest
second
so much
account,
more.
and then
Yeah.
you need to level that account, and then you need a secret spot, because we all know, all you fuckers out there coming after us, but we know, and then you have them as well, and to deal with. It's like completely worse.
But in terms of gameplay, that's you're talking about camping Joker D outside of Marathon. That's adding the layers onto it there in that terms of griefing.
Dude, have you seen? I linked this. Have you seen the guy that multi-boxes dispellers in Classic? He has 8 accounts on every portal place, and he just has like, oh, dude, I will send you some good shit after this. It's hilarious. Like, the level these people go to is in one way impressive and on a degenerate level. Like, it's really crazy. But yeah, Warchief's Blessing, these world buffs in general. Like, I'm 100. I would love to play Classic without world buffs. I think. Like, I think that would be much more enjoyable. I think maybe it would not make Warriors as broken even. It would still probably be pretty broken.
Like,
but
you could be.
I think Rogues would be a lot better.
You could be a
pre-raid.
You could be a pre-raid geared warrior, world buffed, and you would want to bring him to Nax. Hands down.
That's one of the arguments that people bring up all the time about it with Warriors, is that, well, you need gear on Warrior. No, you don't. You don't need gear on Warrior. You need nothing at all. You can craft all items and you're set for next. Like,
make Thrash Blade in the main hand and whatever the Scholarmance weapon in the offhand, and you're done, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And you have like Devil Saw pieces. You have like
done.
You're set. You're set. You need nothing. Hand of Justice, maybe, like, that's a big one, but yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, so the drum thing I don't enjoy. I don't get at all.
But I think it's because world buffs have been fixed. Well, Blizzard have mentioned that they're wanting to address world buffs. Great. Yeah. So what does the community have to complain about? Oh, drums. Okay, so they just jumped on the bandwagon of #change drums, and it's like,
I don't get, like, the thing that I don't get about how they would fix drums is that, like, the thing that I listened to your previous podcast when you were talking about Sam, and he wanted to have maybe a longer duration, which would be an indirect buff, right? And you don't need that at all. You don't need that with the content in any sense. And it was still, for me, as that was helping out with this raid leading, not raid leading, but like doing preparations for the guilds and stuff. It's like, that would only make it worse for me, because now I need to find the people that actually have leatherworking to be in my raid, and maybe one guy goes out. Right now it isn't that bad because everybody has leatherworking, so you could just slot in the next leatherworker. But if you only have a set amount of leatherworkers in your guild, and that one guy can, for some magical reason, doesn't show up that night, you're screwed. Yes. You're screwed, and I don't want that either. And yeah, it's a really tricky situation. I don't know how they fix it.
It's the same with Draenei and their hit buff. Like, that's very dependent. If you're relying on that shaman being in that group, so your gear set is hit capped.
Yeah,
it's interesting. But like, how would you want to change drums? Oh, but just a quick note. That bit of music, I think, is my favorite part of WoW in-game music. I'm just gonna rewind it 3 minutes so I can listen to it again. Sorry, bit of a tangent.
No worries.
But bro, this is lit.
My changes to drums, and I would be, don't change it. I think it's the simplest, easiest thing. They could nerf it and make it really, really bad, I guess. But when wouldn't you use it?
So like, it's when wouldn't you use it?
Yeah,
that's a good question, because I think maybe make it so it's 5% haste right now. 1% haste. So it's negligible.
But
guilds would still go for it. That's fine. Like how do you change it? That's a good question. Like one thing they could do, which would be in a sense Blizz-like, is make it 2.0, where it's 5-yard range and has a 2-second cast. I think it's 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So that makes it awkward to use. There's some fights you want to be spread out. All of a sudden you want to be doing drums. So that makes it awkward, and it's not as, click a button, you're done. Yeah. So that increases the skill level.
Yeah, that could be a good change, actually. thinking about it.
But I think making it so 2 drummers can do the whole group is like crazy.
Yeah, no. That's yeah, no. I don't want like one thing you have to attest to this because I haven't really raided that much since TBC, right? But I think there is some inherent skill in cycling your drums, right? Like maybe
You're right. You're right.
And especially in a speedrun environment, like if I would want to look at it from that point of view, like anything that adds to my rotation, I think is good. Like I don't want
profession cooldown is cool.
Yeah, I don't want jewel craft or enchanting to be the best, where I just slap on a fucking 4 stats on my ring and I'm good to go. Like you versus the other enchanter are identical. Your stats are identical. It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything.
Sam always uses this term. I've never heard anyone else use it. Skill expression. But it's a good term.
It's a small one, but anything adds up. And
in the same way that you're using grenades or sappers in Classic.
Exactly.
It's something that you have control
There's no
over.
skill in throwing a grenade on mobs. Like there's
you can
no
time
skill
it
about
or,
that.
Precast it or...
Yeah, but I mean, in theory, it doesn't make anything. But you want to have it like...
Well, it's a lot more than having just 8 stats on rings.
Exactly. And I think that maybe... I can't really remember, but what's the cooldown of drums? 1 minute? 1 minute?
2 minutes,
something?
And it's a 30-second duration, so 4 people
maybe
can hold it for the whole
something
group.
Like making them 10 minutes. Like, so you could have a certain zone you want to use it. I would maybe enjoy something like that, where you would.
But that's still a requirement, and I think that's something that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You basically need to make it worse than dual craft.
But I would make it so you would have it on different. You couldn't just have it up all the time.
I think this is something that I spoke to Sam about. You make it so bad that the meta is enchanting rings instead, and the community absolutely
I
kills
really
itself.
don't want that. I think for me, this is one of those situations where it's like you think that you do, but you don't. Like this definitely is one of those things. Maybe because of lower tier guilds, maybe. But I don't see the value. I want to have as many buttons as I can, and I want to be able to do especially things that affect my group. And if drums were like a raid wide thing, then I would be like, yeah, fuck that shit, that's stupid. Like, but the fact that it's group wide and you have to have like a certain order and you have to have some form of coordination, I like that.
What about drums not being for the party, then being personal? 5% personal haste, so you can only use it 25% of the time.
I would be down with that, because again, it comes back to the same thing. Like I want expression where I can find
the community really want to have people not have drums be a requirement. How can you not have drums be a requirement and not make it worse than
you have to make it
dual crafting?
Worse than exactly. It's like it doesn't work. In my opinion, it doesn't work. Or even then, if you make it so bad that nobody wants it, like what are the second best professions? It's like, yeah, again, it's jewel crafting, right? Or enchanting, I mean. And then what? Jewel crafting, herbalism. Like, what is? Is there?
Do you know the min-maxing of jewel crafting?
Yeah, I know what it is, but it's like
with the gems.
Yeah, exactly.
So if people are listening, watching, with jewel crafting, you get access to you get a unique gem for best in slot defense, spell damage, attack power, stamina, crit maybe. Anyway, these are unique gems. You can put one of each of them in your gear. So if you're a paladin, you can get the spell damage gem, the defense rating gem, and the stamina gem that are all beneficial to you. Then drop jewel crafting and then keep those gems in your gear. These are better than the epic gems in Black Temple and tier 6, and you can get them day 1, I think, of TBC. So these like epic. These are tier 2 epic gems. These are the same stat gems as the uncommon gems in Wrath of the Lich King. So these are like Wrath of the Lich King level.
Really,
they're the poor Wrath of the Lich King gems, but they're still,
they're still the Wrath of the Lich King gems.
You get one expansion early gems, but it's only one of each stat, and there aren't it's not for every stat.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. So what you would do in an ideal world is start with 100,000 gold. That's step 1. Step 2 is get your enchant your rings with 4 stats on both. Although I think is 4 stats out on launch, or is 4 stats 2.1? I can't remember. But anyway,
I don't remember.
you
I just
enchant your
remember them
rings.
being mandatory in PvP. That's it.
Yeah, I remember like the meta slowly started forcing more and more people. Like it got more well known, and people were taking PvP more seriously the later the seasons got in TBC. So it was like engineering was first, and then jewel crafting was enchanting was second.
Yeah, engineering was, especially with the rocket boots in the early stages, was really, really powerful.
Low HP and
it's
line of sight.
Yeah,
first stage.
Fuck rocket boots.
I guess first stage. Secondary profession was the OG maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't use that much for that many bandages in arena. Maybe that's why I'm low rated.
Yeah, it depends on class, right? Like
Yeah.
in a 1v1, you want to use bandages, but otherwise, not that much.
That's interesting. What Mike's saying again in chat, I can't remember who it was, but someone who was very vocal in my chat the other week is talking about, I think in Wrath of the Lich King, you had the tinnitus debuff, which made you immune to the drums effect.
Like sated, or
minutes.
like the
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
sated is
okay.
yeah. And that was a Wrath of the Lich King change, I believe, to drums. So that's interesting as a solution, but I don't think it's interesting because that fulfills your thing about having it at a specific time, like a nuke phase. But I come from the camp of I want progression to last more than a day. That's something that failed in Classic. Like going back to the us hating Classic, if you told a Classic player in one of the top guilds now, okay, I'm a time traveler. We're back in 2019. Classic is about to launch. Blizzard say that they're going to get rid of phasing. They do get rid of phasing, but they bring it back for the rest of the game. You're not going to be able to do 100v100 battles because it'll be too laggy, and that's never going to get fixed. There's going to be no progressive itemization. There's going to be rampant botting, and when I mean rampant botting, I mean
very
blatant. Stuff isn't getting banned, and it's going to be absolutely atrocious. Every single raid is going to be cleared in the first 4 hours or less, sometimes 45 minutes, and the list kind of just goes on and on.
It does.
They say they're going to listen to the community. They don't listen to the community. There's PTR only for Zul'Gurub and Naxxramas. Naxxramas has been the PTR for so before Nax launch there was PTR for each wing, cool, and then Naxxramas has launched, and then for some reason the PTR has been switched on, and the PTR for has been switched on for I don't know if it's a month or longer now. So we've had and all Classic content has been cleared at this point, and Blizzard have just left the PTR on.
Yeah,
I don't understand. What is going on? We had the PTR on for a week or two for Zul'Gurub. We had the PTR online sporadically just for I think it was a day for each of the wings pre-Nax, and then all of a sudden the PTR was just on 24/7 now. I don't understand why. Guilds are just using it to practice speedrunning every day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to the whole thing we discussed earlier about Classic. It's could they really have made it any worse?
Yes, exactly.
Really?
It's so sad because it could have been so good. Even if they launched one fresh realm on each region between each lull between the phases. Dude, before Nax launch, during the lull in AQ40, if they released one fresh server, it would have been #1 most populated server. There'd be 10k freaking queues for that. People want to have that kind of experience, and I agree that not everybody does, and that the server population drop-off would be huge, but at the same time, that would be a server. That would be a server for life. That would be a server that would transition to TBC, and that would work. I think
it's exactly like you were talking about there, where if you remember all the servers where, if you look at Onslaught server as an example, right? Whatever US server they were on, where they just hounded Alliance off the server. How many of those people do you think continued and went to another server, and how many started and just quit playing because they decided the wrong server? Even if you would look maybe to some degree on our guild, right? How many would you really choose Sandalar Tribe again? Maybe not. If you would have exactly. If you haven't had a second chance, maybe you would go somewhere else. Maybe not, because you would have invested time, etc. But I think the idea with fresh servers is so stigmatized compared to what it actually is. It gives a
Freedom.
breath of freedom and a breath of fresh air to the game. It's
In
like
the same sense that Classic was a breath of fresh air, a fresh
Yeah.
Classic server is in that realm.
Exactly.
No
exactly.
pun intended. Realm.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's like for me, I would without a doubt play fresh TBC over anything else. Not because of all the
I'm just talking about Classic, mate. I hadn't even like in this conversation, I hadn't even was thinking
no,
TBC.
but both.
Oh
Like
my God.
if there was a fresh Classic now, I would play that as well. Like
because it would be effectively fresh enough TBC.
Yeah,
Dude,
exactly.
Before the announcement of TBC, my ideal goal for my selfish reasons as a no-lifer would have been a fresh server. Like we're saying, okay, in 6 months we are releasing TBC. Everyone claps. But next week or in 1 month from now, we are going to release 5 new Classic realms that are going to progress in that same 6-month time frame into TBC. But we're going to leave all the raids open from day one or have a increased time scale. I would be like, I would be eating Classic every day for 6 months, min-maxing my character for TBC. That'd be so fun.
Exactly what you're saying, but that was one of the things that I argued a lot with people. Like, because I never in my wildest dreams could expect them not have fresh servers, because for me, it's
even
it's
in
like
retail they had they just that was like a product of their success, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have new players coming in. Like that's my biggest worry about TBC, to be completely honest with you, is that it's gonna unlike Classic had a pretty huge drop off after a couple of months, right? But in TBC, I'm scared it will be like super high, because first of all, you don't have any raids really. Like you have Kara, you have Mag, and then that's about it. But would that hold you over without any like big raid? Maybe
Blackwing Lair held us off in Classic.
Yeah, but at least you had Molten Core, right? You at least had like 40 man. You at least had some speed running. You at least had like, what are you gonna speed run Gruul? Are you gonna speed run Mag? Are you gonna? But
people are gonna do it, dude.
I mean, sure, people will, but I mean, it doesn't really. It doesn't really hold over people that well, and especially if you're I'm looking at it from the perspective of a newcomer here, right? You're super behind. You rock up and you see like Sammy, right? Sammy with his 4 transmuters and full spellfire gear instantly on level 70 with full Nax gear and 100k in his bank account.
And Atiesh.
And Atiesh. And it's like, are you really incentivized to go hard? Like, I know the argument goes, but they will still get ahead anyway. But at least I feel like I'm in the same starting place as this guy. Like I can, if I want to, spend some time and level up, and he's gonna have to do dungeons, etc. Like for someone like myself who spent a lot of time in classic now, I feel so far behind to TBC players that I'm like debating even playing at times, because I feel like I'm 100k back. I only have 10k on my account. Like what is 10k gonna do? Save me? It's barely gonna get me flying mount. It's So
but again, it's like it's awkward. It's so awkward, and it sucks being in that awkward position.
Yeah.
It feels really bad.
It does a lot, like, but and I'm even played the game pretty hardcore, grinded a lot of gold in Classic and done a fair bit of it, but for these new players that don't really like, I think that's one of the things that Blizzard are kind of counting on, that a lot of these new players don't know really how ahead a lot of these players are.
But again, I don't think that's the average player base. I think because we play a fairly high end and we're closed in this high end ecosystem, like the average player doesn't care about. I think the average player cares about drums. Like I think that's where it comes down to.
Yeah, but I mean, like again, like we were talking about earlier, is that you had coming into TBC like a 1% of the player base cleared Nax, right?
Yes, and
like
now
how
it's
many
50,
has cleared Nax? How many is in fully licked Nax gear?
It's like how many Thunder Furies? How many Atishas? Yeah, there's not like one per server. There's like 50.
Exactly. We had like on my server, we had 2 Grand Marshals at the end of Classic, 2, and now you compare that with like the Classic on Sandalore tribe, even like it's like every time I ran around in Stormwind or something, I could count at least 3 for Grand Marshals. Just
like, the thing is, you see them and you don't even know who they are. because it's
Exactly.
not that big
You
of
have
a
no
deal.
idea. I have no idea. I've never interacted with this person. I've never seen
Yeah.
him anywhere.
They've never PvP'd outside in Ironforge or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's just been running Alterac Valley for a couple of months, and now he's fully decked gear.
Yeah.
Like that's, yeah, it's a completely different game, and I think that's gonna be a detriment for a lot of people when they realize, like, we're so far behind. I'm gonna have to group up with these. Like, I think that was one of the good things about Praxis. Going back to Classic, right? We got a lot of good players. Myself, a lot of other people that never knew these. But that didn't really know other people in the guild, right? But you had the chance for a free slate. Like, you would get any person, you would find these gems in the rough. Dickon, as an example, all these people would come from general chat because you had to have a clean slate. Now for the new players that maybe was good players and didn't finish out playing Classic, they will have nowhere really to go, and it's going to be a big issue for even top guilds, I think, because your player retention rate is going to be super important now. Like, because you cannot get new players, really. You can, well, kind of, but
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in raiding with like some shit guild just so to maybe someday get back to
Yes,
I
it's
would
so much
rather just quit or
investment.
just do arena all the time instead.
It's
right?
awkward in WoW because in order to have that raid spot in a raiding guild, you need to be raiding frequently. You need to, like, particularly if you're not playing a warrior. Like, if you want that,
Yeah.
I don't know, rogue spot or tank spot or, you know, mage, priest, whatever, something that's more. It's awkward. You know, you need to be raiding so long. You need to have the gear. You need to have, you know, all this stuff, and it makes quitting difficult because you know that, you know, you say you quit, and then, you know, 2 weeks later you want to come back. You know, that spot's filled, and, you know, you're not necessarily owed the spot back, and it can be really awkward to get in there and again, and it's, you know, it can be difficult.
Absolutely, and I maybe this is something that I'm just like, because I'm as a person, I always think about, I get more worried than I get content with things. I want to plan for every issue in the future.
Yeah.
So these things, yeah, exactly. So maybe that's a big part of it, but I just see like the content drought, and it's especially the thing with Classic was it was so new. You didn't really mind it being, because people have been waiting for this 15 years, right? Like, they've been waiting longer for Classic. So you're content with the content drought in a way, because you had all these new things to experience, and like world bosses for a lot of people that never experienced world bosses, things like that was super interesting. What does TBC really have to hold you there in like phase 1? Like, is there really anything? Like heroics?
Like, how short? Like, the thing that I'm concerned about in phase 1 more like is it's not the you know, people are going to be farming Kara and Gruul Mag really quickly. My concern is the season 1 PvP. Like, how short can season 1 PvP be and still be a success? What do you think?
I don't know. I really don't know.
These
like,
PvPers hate leveling, they're not going to be quick.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know how they gonna solve a lot of, like, for in one way I'm like,
I know a reason. They have the PTR for tier 5 out at launch to give the people content for the next 6 months to play about with.
That is actually not even kidding a good idea. I think that is something that a lot of people would enjoy, because
it's content. PTR is content. I think again that's maybe a reason why the PTR is open in Classic now.
Yeah,
something for people to do.
Yeah. Actually, I think you might be right with that, because they're
big brain sometimes.
Sometimes, very rarely it happens, but yeah. But yeah, I think that would be. I think like Arena as well. Season 1 isn't really that amazing. Like, Season 2 isn't really that amazing. Season 3 and 4, on the other hand, is like, chef's kiss, right? Like, it's
I love the spoken word chef's kiss. I love that so much.
Yeah, me too. I love it. That's why I had to bring it in somewhere. But for me, season 3 and 4 really is the nice part about TBC Arena. Season 1 is like more of a throwaway, I would say. I don't really like how many people are, and it's also things like that scares me about TBC now. It's like, You have Rogue Mage on Endless where I'm playing right now, right? It's like one of the stronger comps in the game, but they don't have things like Mind Quickening Gem, Skull of Gul'dan, full PvE gear Rogue. Like all these things are really scary in TBC Arena. Like it kind of negates the entire thing, and even like things like Pyro Mage has become kind of meta.
Do you
Rogue,
think they will have like arena tournaments rules where items are blocked?
I really hope so. I really hope so. I think if Blizzard are smart and listen to their community, they would make their standalone arena tournament realm. And
do you think they? Oh, ooh,
they would. They would never do that. But if they did that, I think they could have a big player retention rate there. Because there's a lot of people like myself that I don't really have an interest in TBC PvE, to be completely honest with you. I really just want to do arena. But there is no outlet for me. I only have like PvE arena or don't do it. So I settle for the second best thing, right? Like I don't really get my optimal solution here. I think if a lot of people had the same, and even like if you look at private service in TBC, like arena tournaments are really big in TBC, and a lot of people play there because you had the same thing. Again, you don't have to level, you just start duking it out, and you have a fair playing ground, and you don't really have that in any way in retail. So I think if they were smart, they would do something like that and have that simultaneously, because you would have something like you could have retail arena where people do to just get gear and have that, and then you have the arena tournament where people can just hop on whenever they want to, play a couple games, play with their friends, try out some things, and just have fun, right? And then you have your retail rating, so it doesn't really affect all of it.
The arena tournament, was that the one that was a paid for edition?
Yeah, one was the paid for edition, but the arena tournament I'm talking about is the private server one now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
I'm getting them too confused in my head.
Yeah, it was basically.
So you're talking about private server.
Yeah, I'm talking about both. Like specifically
because the private server tried to emulate the Blizzard server.
Yeah,
is that what
exactly.
You're saying? Okay,
exactly.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. But it was just like transitioning over years. People learned that things like, say, Skull of Gul'dan is just way too broken. It shouldn't be in arenas. It shouldn't exist. Same with Mind Quickening Gem shouldn't exist. And like all these things, do Blizzard really think about this? And would they ever do a restriction like that? Like
no.
MOBAs
and stuff don't have like banned items or banned comps or something like.
But I mean, here's just so, like, again, like we were talking about, it all compounds in TBC. You have Warglaives, right? Warglaives is insane. Insane. Like, the thing that
it's DST on a proc.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've told this story. The comp I took rank 1 with in Season 4 was Rogue Druid with 2 PvE Rogues, double Warglaives, played Dwarf Rogues, and I played Dream State Druid. Right? That's triple DPS basically. Like we killed someone in 10 seconds or like every time. And the only time we lost was because these full PvE geared rogues got smacked. But most of the times we just killed him within like cheap shot, exposed armor, kill the guy. And like things like that is just, it doesn't make it fun for the on the receiving end. It doesn't make it fun for me playing it, but it's gonna happen, right? Like it's just no way around that. People are going to play whatever is the best comps. And it makes some classes completely garbage. Like Warlock, I think, is going to be much worse than people think they are. Just because of that fact alone, that people are going to rock up in PvE gear.
Do you think that, obviously, you probably don't know specifics, neither would I, but what about, do you think there'll be anything that private servers got wrong in terms of PvP?
For sure, there is things that people got wrong. I know that like there a debate a long time has been like Fell Hunter Pet, like things like Fell Hunter Pet. What is their exact resistances or stuff? Like should the whatever trinket that's from whatever the boss. Yeah, like how good is that on is it like a flat thing? Is it an additive thing? Like how does it work? Like all these, there has been a lot of questions about the spell mechanics. Like how does that work? How does resistance to the spell mechanics work in arena? And exactly, and it's like been a lot of questions around that, and has been a lot of bugs around things like that, especially on private servers. Yeah, exactly that Void Star Talisman. So it's like, I don't know. It's like a lot of these things are really hard to predict how right they got, especially with damage and things like even damage hasn't been universal, and proc rate.
Something that annoys me to no end is, I'm not going to say the name of the server, but there's a server out there where people do more damage than they should. And people just think, people play on that server and say, oh, retail TBC players sucked. I'm doing this damage in tier 5 and they were doing it in Sunwell. Yeah. And it's like, bro, you aren't playing the same game, dude. You're playing on some like D tier private server, and it's like, you're just like, oh, I'm so fucking good. These guys are so bad. It's like, no, mate, you aren't doing 5k DPS in tier 5. Like,
but it's exactly what you're alluding to there. It's like the same thing was with any arena tournament. For a while, I remember Warlocks were considered the best class because they had a slightly bugged proc rate with Nightfall, which just makes them chain gun Shadow-Bolts. Yeah, of course it's going to be broken if they chain gun Shadow-Bolts. Like, yeah, of course. It's the same with Endless now, like where procs are slightly higher than I think they should be. So Warrior and
the proc rates suck. Like, you've got Annihilator for Armor Pen. Like,
exactly.
A lot of private
and
servers.
Ran that, right? Like, because that was a big debate between us before Annihilator was out in Praxis, I remember, because we were like, oh, it's going to be so amazing. Like, everybody's going to run Annihilator. Where are we going to fit it? And then it just turned out to be completely garbage. Completely garbage. And it was, so it's like all of these things will either, again, if Mace Stuns and things are worse, like, poor Warriors, they're going to have a bad time. Like, same thing, like, again, goes back to Rogue again, right? Like, Rogue doesn't really have many of these issues. So
yeah, what are they gonna do? Like, add a bigger resist chance to Rogue Stun? Like, that's not gonna be a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter either, to be honest. Like, I mean, I think on Endless now, on the arena tournament, they have pre-nerf values of stun resistance, I think. So it's like, I think it's something like that. I don't really remember. But it's like, in general, it is stun resistance is much higher on Endless than it should be. And even with this, and as I said, with the abolish thing and all this, rogues are still like S tier, like above any other class. And you don't have any of this in retail then later on, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Like, okay, so let's try and close off this podcast. I don't know how long we've been going on for.
I have no idea.
But are there any good closing questions that you want to ask me or I ask you?
I think I don't know.
Like, one thing that I think of is like, I'm thankful for the classic players and the people who are pushing for classic, because hopefully Blizzard learns from the mistakes they made in classic, so I can have a better TBC experience. You know, you've taken the bullet with regards to Blizzard learning how to do these legacy realms.
I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I hope there's one thing that Blizzard learned from classic is that listen to your community, because they actually know.
How can they not know that to start with? Like,
I don't know. It
absolutely boggles my mind.
I think it's like a lot of the people that made classic, like we were talking about earlier, we're listening to Kevin Jordan. He's out here on YouTube talking about, wow, he's not designing it anymore. He's not there anymore. The players that made, or the developers that made the game, most of them aren't at Blizzard anymore. So it's like some second-hand developer that kind of,
like, the fact of the matter is, we want Blizzard to launch classic servers for the community. The fact of the matter is, Blizzard are not launching legacy content for the community.
Yeah,
they're not.
Exactly.
I think, like, they're just feigning interest, and I think the fact that classic WoW is probably by a huge margin the biggest return on investment Activision Blizzard have ever done. I always say 3 keys on the keyboard: Control C, Control V. That's classic. Wow.
Yeah, it's actually exactly like that.
And I don't want to be a pessimist, but at the same time, like, the fact that they were able to get classic WoW running is cool. That's whatever. How much harder do you reckon it was for them to do TBC? Not a lot harder. I've said this before on stream, but like, they come up with all these scenarios. Oh, look, we tried to make a blood elf, and the background is the wrong background on the character creation screen. Cool. are we meant to believe that this was a bug that they had a week ago? Because that's kind of how people interpret that. I doubt it. I think they tried to make TBC launch the week after they got Classic to launch, on modern hardware, modern software, and all that stuff.
Speaking of, that's one thing I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
What do you think of Seal of Blood to Alliance? Is it a good thing or bad thing?
Never played Paladin, so I'm not the best person to ask. But I think it is... Okay, so they gave us 2 fairly big drops of information on the launch. They said pre-nerf, which is great, because that tells us, you can interpret quite a lot of information from that. But they also gave us the first change, and that was Seal of Blood. So exactly. And they also mentioned hashtag some changes. Whilst it would be scary as hell for them to not say pre-nerf and to not say seal for both factions, and to say hashtag some changes. I wouldn't be sleeping at night if they didn't give us an example of one of the hashtag some changes.
Yeah,
because Seal of Blood does kind of make sense.
That,
So if the hashtag some changes are around the same kind of changing atmosphere as the seal change, that's a change that no one's really arguing is a bad thing.
Yeah,
but
I get that.
But
I'm scared of it in Arena, but that's about it.
Okay.
Because I think like Dwarf Paladin is really scary with that, because you have really no way to stop it now. Like Red is really powerful. It's really, really powerful. Red Shaman is really, really strong. And
this is one thing I keep thinking about this when you keep talking. But a BlizzCon with a WoW Classic Arena tournament final. How cool would that be?
That would be really, really cool.
Like, could you imagine? You've got the WoW Retail Arena tournament with their big screen, all the chairs, cool. And then you have the classic WoW Arena, big screen, all the chairs. And you can it'd be like, there's pictures you see between like Obama and Trump's inauguration, with the crowds. And we know, like, people are going to be there for the classic arena, aren't they?
Yeah, I would really, I hope there's a lot of interest in TBC Arena. I hope it will be. I think it will be.
They need to do it right, though, don't they? Same with Classic. Like, please, Blizzard, don't take a full expansion cycle to fix Arena and have good Arena in Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah. You could have good Arena in TBC. Yeah, it is possible.
They really could.
Again, they could have had a good whole lifespan of an expansion in Classic, but they
could have had a good game post TBC as well, but they just never had. So
yeah. But that's where fresh servers kind of come in. It's like, we made the expansion you like, Classic. Okay, we made the expansion TBC. Well, now there's Wrath of the Lich King. Oh, you don't really like that? Well, now there's fresh servers for Classic. Yeah. It's like, it's kind of late. It's awkward.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're watching Blizzard, beta key for me and Shady, we'd much appreciate it.
Yeah, and Arena tournament.
Streaming every day. I'll market your game 18 hours a day.
I'll do something. I don't know what, but I'll do something.
Get a white t-shirt and just write TBC on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just walk outside once. It's all good. Okay, well, I think we're about there. So, Shady, thank you so much for being on this podcast with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I would love to have you back, hopefully very, very soon.
Anytime, my friend.
And it's great seeing you. Like, I'm so, when I saw you my stream just chatting, months after leaving the guild, I'm like, dude, there's one guy in the guild who I would want to, reach out to and talk to. I'm so happy that, you're around and wanting to chat.
It's nice to talk to you too.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thanks everyone for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a comment, and this will be uploaded to YouTube. And thanks for watching live, and thanks for watching the VOD on YouTube. Bye.
Bye.